Yeah.
So,
Oh, go ahead. What were you
no,
gonna
no,
say?
you go ahead, sir.
I just want to say, so I just watched Guava Island.
Yeah, what would you think of that?
I thought it was pretty good. I did. I see some of the thematic elements. You were sort of like you saying how it was really important to the Obama or like Suicide Kings theme. I see certainly sort of like I see some of the overarching thematic similarities.
Right.
I'm curious what was like. Okay, so just to say, um, I guess it doesn't matter about spoilers, right? Like we're not.
No, no,
I
no, we
guess for
can't we
any,
can't do that to have this conversation. It's okay. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
no way around it, yeah.
Cool. Right. So, you know, the sort of Isis and Osiris symbolism of like the casket and the celebration really being about his death more, or finding life within his death and all that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I thought the red and blue, the sort of like of not playing with the colors there of red and blue, of one being oppression, one being the people, the
Right, the man
silk,
was named
this,
Red, and so
yeah.
it became, yeah, yeah. So he's the
But the
severity, and then
man named
Donald Glover was
Red
the mercy.
controls the blue silk, and then in the end, all the people turn blue, wearing blue, and he's left. He's no, he's kind of stripped of his power, and um, uh, yeah, like a lot of that stuff I thought was really, really again like interesting symbolism, and I can see definitely some of the why you would say, hey, that was I would find it interesting, and I did. I'm just curious if there was something I'm missing that was like more, I don't know, specific. That was like, oh shit, did you catch this or
Yeah, there's a
something?
few things. One of them is how this specific film relates to Donald Glover in The Lion King.
Okay.
So he plays Simba, and then it's
Hmm.
not just that,
Oh.
it's also the album that Donald Glover released under the name of a date that was towards the very beginning of the coronavirus in the US, or I should say COVID. And he released an album and then for free download, and then took it away very shortly after, and then released it officially. But the name of the album is actually the name of the date, and so I'd have to look it up. And I think I've shown you the image of the
Yeah,
album
yeah, yeah. It
before.
shows
With
like everyone out in the. It's basically it's a comic book page,
yes,
and even even like the blue lined paper. I don't know if you know anything about like comic book art, but there's a sort of like specific that blue border is it's like a really specific border that it's drawn on, or sort of like a anyway, yeah. It's really an interesting image. All that sort of stuff is fascinating. I forgot you're right that he was Simba, so then that him being Osiris, this Osiris figure in this, and then he's the Lion King in that. That's fascinating.
right, and it's
Um,
also the idea that this kind of arrogant notion that by off-putting the actual festival, which would be, the guy who's basically just he strained the emanated flow of the island, so to speak. So this guy
hmm.
Red and everything that he represents, and he's recognized. They know what the problem is. Like the problem is really obvious, and for that guy to think that he can just basically kill the soul of the island in the first place, but then take their actual leader who's come up organically. So like he's a contrived leader, this red guy. But
Hmm.
Donald Glover, his character in that, has basically come to his place because he earned it with his spirit, like which is one with the soul of the island, which is one with the soul of the people who recognize and appreciate what's the true value of the island, who hasn't
Correct.
just
Yeah.
turned everything into a product. And so like when Donald Glover is explaining that this is America, and he kind of gives an
Hmm. I
explanation of
like that scene a whole lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he's like, any place where, people are being exploited in this way, it might as well be America. And so that really
Which
hits
ties
home.
into the conversation you and I had, I think, the last time we spoke, talking about like Moloch and Babylon.
Sure.
It's like the idea that America is founded on that. I'm sure, I'm sure you remember that video of the guy who says, "Hey, the Babylonian sun squares that were the sort of blueprint for the original like American colonies and stuff like that." You
Sure.
know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah.
So the idea that like America is built on a Babylonian blueprint, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, even if that's not true, it is metaphorically true. America is modern day Babylon.
Right. For all intents and purposes, the cornucopia is Babel. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, in by saying any place is America, and is essentially the modern day way of saying this is all Babylon. This is
Right. Oh, exactly. Exactly. It would be the equivalent of what Bob Marley would call anything that is that. I shouldn't just say Bob Marley. I mean that we came across acknowledgments of that in looking at old Kabbalistic text, me and Baruch, because there would be examples where Babel is also the same as saying Rome. So when you're like, oh, this is what Rome is doing, and then you'll see things apply where you're like, no, this is later, so like 16th century stuff where it's like it's not even talking about Rome per se, but it's like Rome as an all encompassing everything that's not Zion.
hmm
Uh,
correct. Yeah, as I was gonna say, that's specifically you mentioned Marley. I mean, any sort of like uh, reggae, sort of Rasta um, cultural shorthand is Zion and Babylon is
right. One of the
very
reasons I just
prevalent. Yeah.
jumped at that is because the character that Donald Glover plays in Guava Island is very much a Bob Marley character. The context of Bob Marley being that you had that radio show and things would happen, and he would be giving a voice to the people, like live on air, like people would know exactly what it was that he was referencing, and it would be so fast it'd be like even like the day of, like something goes down, and now here's Bob Marley singing about it, and everyone knows exactly what he's singing about. And so there's that
Yeah.
revolutionary aspect to that being on it. I've equated the same thing actually with uh I think I've told you before, Sage Francis with Makeshift the Patriot being written so quickly after 9/11, kind of reminiscent of Neil Young doing Ohio right after the Kent State shooting.
Mm.
And so the people are very in touch with this central figure in their community who is giving them a voice musically and, socially and philosophically and everything else. Um, but yeah, it's a context thing. And what I don't know if you've seen Black is King, but
I haven't watched it yet. No, I don't have Disney. Oh, but sorry, go ahead. What you're gonna say? But you just reminded me. There's something I left out of this most recent Sync Quick News. What were you gonna say? While I
I'm just
find
going
this.
to acknowledge that there's kind of a meta communication between Guava Island, The New Lion King, specifically with Donald Glover's most recent album, and Black is King. And so you have this kind of conglomeration of different voices in the music industry giving expression to this idea that is expressed in different ways through these three or four technically components. Um, yeah, I was experimenting with playing the soundtrack to Black is King with Guava Island, and that turned out to be really interesting. And I haven't shared it online yet, but I was playing around with that a bit. Um, they call it a soundtrack to the Lion King. That's not the Lion King soundtrack,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's just there's something to be said for the timing of all this and the meaning of all this. And I don't know. I wanted to delve into it a bit, but I'm not even sure exactly where to begin. But the principles behind the Golden Bough are very apparent in this kind of like meta work, and I don't hear that many people like acknowledge how significant these pieces of media are in relationship to each other. And so, yeah.
Have you seen JJ Draw's new video from just like this week? I
From
don't know
this
if you
week,
put it. Yeah, I don't know if you put it on YouTube yet. I know he was having trouble getting it on YouTube.
I saw one he did a few weeks ago or something, but
No, it would have been
I
very,
love
very,
it.
very, very new.
Oh,
Where the fuck did I put this? Oh, here we go. Okay. I'm gonna send you an image. What is this file? 195804. 195804. Sorry. Telling you 5 things at once, but okay, what did I say? 195804. There we go. So we'll start here. So this is you mentioned Disney, and I've been tracking so that right the whole Disney announces
wait a
Lion
minute, wait a minute, wait a
King.
minute, wait a minute. Am I actually looking at a tweet from Disney?
Yes.
And it literally says, "What will they sacrifice to make history? In 5 days, start streaming the first 2 episodes of the Right Stuff series on Disney Plus."
Yeah.
Disney has said, "What will they sacrifice to make
What will
history?"
they sacrifice to make history? And that screenshot is actually from a few days ago. So that would have been from October 4th. I took that screenshot. If I'm looking
Yeah,
at
that's
this
kind of a
right.
you got to be kidding me type of screenshot there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so it's like either October 4th or October 5th. I took that screenshot so we can look to see when the show comes out. But yeah, exactly. Like literally as I'm writing about this stuff and I'm looking at how Disney Black is King through, I had seen their Twitter and then they announced this. I'm sure they are announcing it other ways besides just Twitter, but that's where I've seen all these sort of announcements that have been really interesting sync nodes of both Black is King and then this new Lion King. I don't even know what they're calling it yet, but it's like a Lion King spin-off. Maybe it's going to
They're
be a
calling
live
it a
action
follow-up.
follow-up.
And
Yeah.
so wait a minute here. So I was surprised when I watched the Sync Quick News was he showed David Plate sent me this picture of the buried of a woman in a Trump is King shirt.
So this Liberty Hangout is the Trump is my king, which
Right.
is so funny because the Liberty Hangout, I remember those guys. Just to say, like that as the sort of merchandise outlet has been around for a while, and they've been the most like they were basically like libertarian conspiracy stuff. How now suddenly they're like this politician is my king? How is that liberty? That's fucking bootlicking. Anyway,
Yeah.
so the Trump is my king thing is September 29th, which is the same day as the Lion King announcement. So what you sent me, I looked at the screenshot date
I
is
see.
September 29th. And that's the same day that Disney announced the Lion King follow-up. So then what 2 days later, let's see now, three we see September 29th to October 4th or 5th. Okay, so more like 4 or 5 days later. But same week, suddenly Disney Plus announces what will they sacrifice to make history. I just thought that was fucking interesting.
Right.
All right, now just to say, JJ Draw, I'm pretty sure it was in his video. I don't know where else I would have seen this. It was a clip from like a musician on MTV talking about, hey, I really want someone to play my new album with different movies and see what they find. So when JJ's video comes out, you got to watch it.
Okay. So here, Barry Jenkins is set to direct this new Lion King follow-up thing. Barry
Mm-hmm.
Jenkins is the director of Moonlight. Now, I don't know if you've seen Moonlight, but
Mm-mm.
I have a pairing with Moonlight with a Saul Williams album called Volcanic Sunlight. And actually, on Saul Williams' social media on Facebook, he maybe over a year ago, I think there was a pride parade thing that he was at, and I had commented with a link to Moonlight with Saul Williams' Volcanic Sunlight, and I wrote applicable, and I got a heart emoji from Saul Williams, and I scrolled through his page as far back as I could to see if he had ever commented or liked anybody's comment, and I couldn't find a single one. I'm
Holy
pretty
shit!
damn,
Okay.
I'm pretty damn sure that that response actually came from Saul Williams. But what's interesting about this is it's one of the more rare examples where a film came out after an album where it's that level of uncanniness. So one of the things too, I don't know if you listen to Saul Williams much, but that particular album, Volcanic Sunlight, has especially towards the end, has a heavy Obama theme in it. And there's a song basically saying, it not that it's a recognition that you could become president, speaking to people who would never think of themselves as a possibility for them to become president because of Obama. I won't do it complete justice, but there's something really interesting that happens towards the end of the pairing where he's rhyming about whales, and there's actually a whale painting, like a humpback whale painting on the wall behind. Um, but I shouldn't even bother mentioning that because there's so many alignments that happen with the pairing. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out because I consider the Lion King Donald Glover sync pretty uncanny, and I also consider the Moonlight Volcanic Sunlight pairing from the guy who's set to direct the new Lion King to be equally uncanny. And so it's just worth mentioning. I don't know.
I want to give you a few other syncs here. So I've signed into YouTube to see if JJ's video was online yet. It does not appear to be on YouTube yet. But there's a comment from this guy, comments on my newest video. There is a new Nas album that just came out August 21st, 2020. And the album is called King's Disease.
Wow.
And if I'm not mistaken, Nas does a song with Damian Marley. Let's see. Called The Road to Zion. Let's see. I think Nas is on that, right? Yeah. Same musician. Okay, yeah. So Damian Marley and Nas do a song called Road to Zion. Nas now has an album out called King's Disease. August 21st, 2020. That's really interesting. Gonna have to check this album out.
Oh, of course. Yeah. No, this looks awesome. Look at the cover of that.
That's great. That's great. Wow, it's really interesting. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, there's something kind of alchemical about it, isn't there?
It sure is, yeah. Another guy, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember who I want to credit them, but whatever. Somebody, I had showed someone that I think it was the Trump King thing. The Lion. Oh no, it was the Lion King follow-up tweet before I made the Sync Quick News,
Mm-hmm.
and they pointed out that you're showing this guy. The director's name is Barry, and that is of course Obama's old name, right?
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about that.
But yeah,
So
Lion King
Barry
follow-up from Barry.
is Barry, the name Barry, derived from Barack, meaning lightning? Is the guy doing the fucking new Lion King technically named Lightning, like Barack?
Hey, Barry etymology. Want to look it up?
Yeah, go look it up. I'll leave it to you.
Well, appreciate you. Let's see. Behind the name.
Really?
Angelicized form of Bairri, Bairre. It is also sometimes used as an angelicized form of Berach, Berach. Berach. Oh, interesting. This is showing as the Irish Bairach, meaning sharp. It is the name of a 6th century Irish saint, not going back to Hebrew Barak, but an Irish. And then, wow, that's really interesting. So there's 2 etymologies. One is going to meaning fair-headed, so like white hair or fair hair, and the other being Barak, meaning sharp.
Huh.
But both going to Irish, not to Hebrew.
Interesting.
Yeah. And obviously the sort of Irish Egyptian correlations are not not to be missed. That's really, really interesting.
What I'm looking at is that Barry, I don't know if it's the name, but it's coming from French, late 15th century, from French Bury Bard, striped.
No, where are you getting that? That's interesting.
That's just, I put in Barry etymology.
That's what I did. That's what I did.
On Google?
Yeah.
Well,
not Google, but
well, maybe you went to Barry name etymology. I just went to Barry etymology. Barry.
Yeah, gotcha.
Fair top, fair and Barry. Hold on a second. Scrolling through it. You're looking at you went to Wikipedia?
I see a Wikipedia which also says fair-haired. It was that same Gaelic origin here. I do see that. I went to behindthename.com.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There is I'm gonna see if I go to etymology. Online etymology dictionary, and let's look up Barry there. They don't have Barry.
So the Right Stuff series?
Yeah. That's what this Disney tweet is referencing. That one.
So I had I don't know what the Right Stuff series is. Upcoming American drama television series based on the 1979 book of the same name by Tom Wolfe and the 1983 movie of the same name. Okay, that's what I was going to ask. The Right Stuff is referencing the 1983 movie about the Mercury ship.
Astronauts, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it was basically people that were taking off from another ship, so they had planes coming out of a larger ship. What was the deal? I saw it a long time ago. I actually had a sync with it with a album called Mind the Gap that was released the same day. So it's the Mercury 6.
Mercury 7 it looks like, but yeah. I'm reading with the Right Stuff right now.
Okay.
Wikipedia, it says it's about blah blah blah, as well as the Mercury 7, the 7 military pilots. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's a long movie. It's an interesting movie. But yeah, I had to check it out when like the original posters for it had the Mercury alchemical symbol there. Or at least one of them did, and I came across that, and I wanted to go look into it, and then I looked at albums that came out the same day, and one of them was called Mind the Gap. I don't remember who did that. Was it Thompson Twins? I'm gonna check.
So this is really interesting. Okay, so
Into the Gap. That was what it's called, not Mind the Gap.
Apparently, like one of the first billing in this film is Fred Ward as Virgil Gus Grissom, and that was used to be what's his name? Chris Knowles used to write a lot about. So Gus Grissom is a guy who died in these NASA tests. He died in a fire on NASA grounds, like while they were doing basically he's like in a capsule.
Yeah, I'm having a weird moment where I'm thinking of Jack Parsons dying in a mercury explosion, and this was the Mercury 6 or 7, yeah.
But I mean, this was years ago. I remember Knowles had written a lot about this. That basically, he thought that this was sort of like a sacrifice, that Grissom was essentially sacrificed in this fire accident, whatever, and that anyway, it's just like that. Just seeing what this is about, then puts the phrasing, "What will they sacrifice to make history?" Really, you know what I'm saying? Knowing
Sure.
that someone who has written about this guy being murdered as a sacrifice for the rocket launches, and that Disney uses the word sacrifice in their marketing for it is fascinating.
Oh yeah. What will they sacrifice to make history? Of all the things that they could write, and that's what we're looking at, the right stuff. And so I just want to show you something that's just kind of interesting here real quick.
Please, yeah.
If you go to the Wikipedia page the wide release of the right stuff was February 17th, 1983. And so if you look at the cover of this Thompson Twin album, just check out the cover. So it's the same day and year, and they got
totally. I see that.
You see how it looks like a ship, and it's like going past the planet like that.
Totally, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was this was a while ago, and it was just an experiment I did. That I do so many of these that I don't actually share. They're just like I'm like, what happens when I do this? And so I only really share the real special stuff, But this was something that I did quite a while back that I really enjoyed.
So you've already tried this? You paired this film and this album?
Yeah, I played this with the right stuff quite a while back. Yeah, and so it's interesting that this Disney Plus thing is literally like I was like, is somebody just calling something else by the same name? And it's like, no, it's literally it. And so there's one of the big hit songs on this was obviously "Hold Me Now," but also you have "You Take Me Up," and even just the nature of what they were doing with that experimental stage in rocketry was literally like you have a plane attached to another plane. So there's like a smaller plane attached to a much larger plane, and they were seeing how to break the sound barrier. This may have been the first time we broke the sound barrier that it's referencing. And so part I need to check that. Is that true? Am I talking truth, or am I pulling that out of a hat? Yeah, no. To attempt to break the sound barrier in the X1. So yeah, no, but so I was at the time. This is all coming to me. I was tripping out on this idea of like the sonic boom of breaking the sound barrier. But this was the thing. So the plane exploded, or some people. So how did it go? Let me look it up.
So this is what I'm reading here. Back in California, Yeager hears that a Soviet pilot holds the altitude record in a jet plane. A new Lockheed plane has arrived for testing, but funding for his program is being cut as NASA's funding is increasing. Yeager decides to take it out to attempt to beat the altitude record. Upon breaking it, the jets flame out and can't be reignited. His aircraft spins out of control and he is nearly killed in a high-speed ejection. Seriously burned, Yeager simply gathers up his parachute upon landing and walks to the ambulance, proving that he still has the, quote, right stuff. Is that really what this film is? Like, he walked from the plane crash into an ambulance.
Right.
He's got the right stuff.
So here's what I'm looking at in the plot on Wikipedia. So there's the thing about Yeager, that's one part. But then, worried that he might not fly the secret mission, he confides in friend and fellow pilot Jack Ridley, who solves the problem by giving Yeager the stump of a broom handle to use as leverage. Talk about witches flying on brooms. Okay. Though the X1 bucks like a wild bronco and pushes him to his limit, Yeager goes supersonic and lives. Yet the attendant sonic boom initially causes people to think his plane has exploded. However, an officer immediately classifies his achievement, denying him the fame of his accomplishment, which some people thought couldn't be done in an airplane. So basically, it's kind of like Black Swan theory or something, where you had this idea that people were just assuming no, you can't break the sound barrier with an airplane, and then what do you know, it happened.
Right.
Yeah, the broom handle part is interesting.
No, that's fascinating. It's really fascinating.
I mean, there's more to it than that. Obviously, it's like what is it? How long is this movie? It's crazy long. Maybe not crazy long. 192 minutes. It's pretty long. But yeah, so there was actually a Black Mirror special, like extra long Black Mirror that was done where it was choose your own adventure. Do you remember that?
I never watched it, but it was like Boulder Dash or
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, in that Black Mirror, there's a guy who goes to a record store and you can decide which record he gets, and it determines where the plot goes from there. And the album was this album of
Into the Gap?
Into the Gap, yeah.
What is the other option?
I don't remember. I just remember that. I mean, I saw it when it came out, and it was a while ago, but it's stuck with me. Yeah, and it's interesting too that it's Tom Wolfe.
Bandersnatch.
Yeah, Bandersnatch. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, there's a point too where you can decide whether the guy drops acid or not. I think. It's like, do you want to drop acid? See what happens.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I want to go from there. I mean, the Mercury thing is interesting too, in terms of like, what was that Shakespeare story about the storm?
The Tempest?
The Tempest. The Tempest had a whole Mercury thing going on, right? What's the deal there? Jumping all over the place, but
yeah.
It might be worth it. Comes up with Tempest and Mercury.
It's interesting you say that. Yeah, I mean, my head is spinning because
I don't remember why I'm making that connection. There was some connection there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally like trying to make sense of everything that's coming out in front of me right now, because I'm like literally trying to trace back 3 sync threads ago. There was something I was trying to remember. It's coming a little fast at us, but interesting. The Into the Gap album was recorded in the Bahamas. Here was something about Guava Island. Why didn't Rihanna sing it all?
Isn't that interesting? That it's all Donald Glover, and you have such another fellow musician in the thing that never sings.
I just kept with the whole movie. I'm like, all right, when she's gonna sing next? Maybe
that's something else. I might want to look at if there's a Rihanna album that came out at the same time or something, you know.
So here's something I just thought about. I just want to kind of like bring this back to Guava Island for a minute.
Yes, sir.
So, there's posters around the island that say "Red sees you."
Yes,
right?
Total Big Brother is watching.
Well, it's a Big Brother, but it's also like Red Sea.
Okay,
right?
That didn't even occur to me, but I'm with you.
But when I said it out loud, it wasn't until I said it out loud that I was like, "Oh, like Red Sea." But anyway, the poster "Red sees you," which is like a Big Brother, shows a butterfly. Right, so the island's main treasure is this silkworm, which they show as this blue worm.
Yes.
And then the red is symbolized by this butterfly. And at the end, so when we see Red the first time, he's dressed all in red.
Right.
But then at the end of the movie, he's wearing this like crazy colorful outfit. He's not dressed in red. He's dressed as a butterfly. And all the people are dressed in blue, like the silkworm.
Yeah.
Right? So there's something interesting with the symbolism there where instead of, maybe we associate the butterfly with the more evolved or the more like advanced form of the life cycle, but they're showing this as the silk is what's valuable. The I don't know, the lower class maybe, or something like the lower ranked.
Right. It's almost a retelling of the Lorax.
Yeah, the worm is what is valuable. The butterfly is not, because the butterfly doesn't produce the silk.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see. Okay, interesting.
All right, so at the end of the movie, all the people are in blue, and he is in an outfit that resembles a butterfly. And then again, if you see throughout the film, the red is watching. It literally has a butterfly symbol on it.
Right, and I think there's an immortalization that he didn't count for. He thinks he can get rid of something, but that's not how it actually works.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Oh, I'll just get rid of this problem," and then it's like, no, actually, he got everyone to put things into perspective.
There's one more thing I want to point out is that they keep talking about how Saturday, the festival is to be Saturday, but if they have the festival on Saturday, it would go all night, and then no one would be able to work on Sunday. And the question isn't really about Saturday's festival. The question is about who owns Sunday. And the last line of the film is Rihanna saying, "We got our day. We got our day," which was Sunday.
Right.
And that's about as like much of a solar symbolism as you can imagine of like
sure from Saturn.
Yeah, exactly. The sun dies on Saturn's day, and he is immortalized on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Even he's
the Shakina. He's the poor one. Not just him, but also Rihanna. Their whole the people. That's the thing. It's relating to oppression. And so you have, that's one meaning of Shakina is she's taken Kabbalistically to be the poor one. And the idea is that, well, the stone that the builders rejected is pushed to the bottom. And that's the life of the thing. Whatever's most essential in the thing gets pushed to the bottom. And then through that, it gets more, the tree gets more and more restrained. The emanative flow gets more restricted. And so that's what the island represents, is like the island is the tree of life. And they've restricted the tree of life further and further, but it's showing you that even if you were to take out the last element of what is the stone that's holding the whole thing together, that it's through that things are put back in their place. And then Red thinks he's got all this power, but then it shows that his power was not really strength. It was something else,
Correct.
Masquerading as strength. So he has a substitute reality for everyone on the island, but they all know the truth. Everybody knows it. They're just pretending it's a lie. That's the conversation that he has with that guy when they sing "This Is America,"
No, totally, yeah. Well, I mean, even like Red has got the blue bird in the cage again. Like it's this red and blue.
Yeah, he's got the blue bird of happiness in the cage. Yeah.
Yeah, but the bird is out of the cage. At the moment Donald Glover dies, he sees the bird. He literally sees the bird just before he gets shot, right?
Right.
So there's also, going back to an Egyptian version of this, when do you know what the Ba bird is?
No.
So it's basically like this. It's a form that ISIS takes. Oh, I just remembered. Rihanna has an ISIS tattoo.
She does.
That's why he got
across
Rihanna.
the chest.
That's why it's fucking Rihanna. Huh. So Isis is often seen with the wings, like her arms have wings, even though she's in a humanoid form. But there's this thing called a Ba bird, B-A, and it is this form that Isis can transform into, and it is what sort of like transports the spirit. So when you talk about the spirit of the island,
Sure.
and that to see that blue bird, yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, Vigil just shared something on in the kitchen sink. It's applicable. I'm scrolling to get to it right now. Um, Relating to the Golden Dawn and Isis. I don't see it. Where is it? Sorry. Yeah, can't find it. Some news with the Golden Dawn and ISIS right now. I guess I'll just look it up separately. Not Israel regarded as the Golden Dawn, but
Well, the Golden Dawn in Greece.
yeah,
Yeah, there was they just declared them I don't know, like a hate group, or basically,
yeah,
do you know what that is? It's like there is this sort of essentially neo-Nazi organization
sure,
in
yes,
Greece called the Golden Dawn, and there was just some proclamation made to like officially classify them as.
yeah. I remember when they first came out, and Baruch mentioned that to me. He was like, "You looking at this thing with the Golden Dawn?"
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
Right, but there's something weird how it connects to ISIS, and then you have the Iranian temple, ISIS Iranian temple, related to the other Golden Dawn. Israel regarded as the Golden Dawn.
Well, yeah, yeah. Uh, Sorry, I was going to point out. I was going to point out the obvious like Kabbalists. You were saying the island is the tree of life, the sort of like
Yes.
mercy, severity. She says, and even that beginning animation, she says love and war, and they show the blue and red. It's this mercy and severity sort of
Hmm.
thing.
It's really interesting.
Um,
Yeah.
on this Thompson Twin album is a song called "Sister of Mercy."
Interesting. Yeah, there's a Leonard Cohen song, Sisters of Mercy, but yeah, interesting. Um, oh boy, I'm gonna go with that. Okay, so you mentioned the butterfly thing. You probably haven't seen Antebellum.
No, I haven't seen it. If you're
There's an
saying you showed me something about this movie, I don't believe you
Yes,
did.
I think I tagged you. Maybe I can find the screenshot again. Basically, in Antebellum, there is a shot where two people are in bed, and above the bed there is a woman with the classic crown from Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah, maybe you did tag me in that. Okay, I know exactly. I didn't realize that was from Antebellum.
Yes.
Okay, got you. I
So
remember
so
seeing
that's the
a
kicker. That's a
screenshot.
total sync. So you have, and I don't know who the woman is,
Right, right, right.
but there's this woman with the tilted crown, exactly the same as, and that was his last album, I believe, or was that wasn't released post mortem? I don't think, because there's two albums. There's one that he released shortly before he died, and then there's one they released after he died.
You talking about Biggie Smalls?
Biggie Smalls, yeah,
That's before he died.
right, but right. But anyway, point being, you have the day and year of
Yeah, yeah.
RBG's death. You have this film comes out, Antebellum, and it focuses heavily on the butterfly as a Rorschach test.
Mm.
So in the film, there's a psychiatrist who uses the like a Rorschach butterfly as her symbol. And if you look at the poster art for the film, they put the butterfly over her mouth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Okay,
in the
I
film,
can
yeah,
picture
there's
that.
also the whole thing around her lipstick that's emphasized in the movie, which even so it's focused on the Civil War. And, during the Civil War, not just the Civil War, but what they used to do to some black slaves was they would put this metal mask over their face. I don't know if you've ever seen that before.
Say that one more time.
During slavery times, they would put a metal mask over slaves' faces. Have you ever seen this?
I've not seen this. No.
Here, just do a Google search. Put in slavery mask.
Slavery mask.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I have seen this.
Right, it's very disturbing.
Yeah.
But there's something about the cover of Antebellum where they put this red butterfly over her mouth. And it seems symbolic in the film that there's this whole emphasis on her and her lipstick. Because somebody steals her lipstick and had made a comment about her lipstick. And this whole thing of because she's a strong, independent black woman who has had, who's basically taken into slavery. And the lipstick becomes symbolic of her freedom in a way. And so they don't show the mask in the film, but they show the other part that they would attach along with the mask sometimes, where it's like this hook thing that goes out so that it's like a collar. You have to wear a collar along with the mask. So they show that, but they don't show the mask. But I don't completely know where I'm going with this, but it seemed like there was something really poignant and profound happening with that in the film. So if you ever see it, I would encourage you to meditate on that a bit.
It's so fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. Yeah, absolutely. And so, it's some people have pointed out the slave mask phenomenon in terms of, when people are being asked to wear masks, people that are knowledgeable on that, it kind of brings something up in that regard, like, basically put on your muzzle, and sometimes the mask.
Yeah. But, if you go back to the Bible, an earring is a sign of slavery.
Yeah. I just found it really, really freaking strange. I had a heavy sink moment looking at that image above the bed in Antebellum and being like, how I am seeing this all over the internet right now. And now I'm looking at a film released the day and year that she died with that in center screen.
That's crazy, yeah.
And I would really like to find out who it actually is in that image, who that's supposed to depict. I tried to look it up. I can't find that information.
And so is Antebellum taking place in what year?
Yeah, I even by saying that that's a spoiler alert, I'm spoiling it.
Okay, gotcha. So that's part of the idea is that we're still
the idea is that the past isn't really past.
Right. Okay.
And that's kind of the driving point of the film in a way, is that we're in the past, but the past is still here, and I think there's truth to that.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, we're literally whether it's even if. I want to be really careful how I say this because the sort of Civil War motif that we're experiencing right now, I think is a fascinating one, but it's there's the idea of the sort of forced divide within the country. But that's what I want to be sort of careful around. But even considering so again, maybe I'm seeing this more exclusively because of where I live, and you're in California, might not be as prevalent, but a lot of the Black Lives Matter protests where I am in Virginia particularly coincided with the return of these questions about Confederate monuments.
Sure.
And this summer, which is insanity. So basically we had the last few years, I live in Richmond, Virginia, which is, was the capital of the Confederacy, right? There were, for the last few years, a number of protests and all this stuff about, hey, can you take these Confederate monuments down? Can you take these Confederate monuments down? They're like, no way. So then this year, everyone's like, hey, can you stop killing people?
Right.
And stop tear gassing us when we ask, literally, hey, here's a peaceful protest asking you to stop killing people, and you tear gas us, and now we're really upset. And what did the city do? They took the Confederate monuments and like, okay, cool, we'll take the monuments down.
Right. We'll do any type of placation that we can besides actually reprimanding or having genuine accountability
Yeah,
without
exactly.
doing the thing that would be the obvious thing to set things right. We're going to give you every symbolic act we can muster. We're getting rid of Aunt Jemima. We're going to, it's like, okay, more symbolism, more symbolism, more symbolism. And, I think that there's something to be said for making things about symbolism rather than treating the actual issues.
Absolutely. I think, that was something I had, you know, something I had was really, really upset about over the summer was just that moment where it was like the fact that this thing that you couldn't get them to change. Okay, fine, we'll take the monuments down. It's like, that's not what people are that's what we were protesting about 2 years ago,
Right.
you know?
Sure.
Like, but now you'll do that because it really doesn't hurt anybody. You could take the monument down, and we still don't have to control our out of control police or anything like that. It's fucking fascinating.
Wasn't it Robert E. Lee who was actually against any monuments for the South being erected after the Civil War because he didn't want to be a poor sport loser?
Probably. I have seen something about that.
I think that's true. I think I looked that up about a year ago, and he was very much against those monuments in the first place. So it's kind of strange that people are like, "Oh, history, blah blah blah," and it's like, yeah, no, I get it. We don't want to forget history, but at the same time, isn't it interesting that the very guy who everyone under him, you're making monuments, and he was against them in the first place. So it's like, okay, that's crazy.
Well, yeah, and I guess, and the other thing is that you don't like, we don't have statues of everything we like. We don't forget. Like, wow, I might forget there was a Holocaust if you don't put up a statue of Hitler in the middle of my town.
Right.
The whole idea of like we'll forget history if you don't put a statue up of it doesn't really make sense. It's one of the few things, and particularly again where I am, we don't have statues of much. We have
Right.
we have a lot of statues of Confederate guys.
Yeah.
Not much else. Really, their
I remember
statues.
your story where you went to some wedding or something, and there was the slave quarters that was still there, and somebody commented on it, and you were in a vehicle, and somebody wasn't giving up their seat.
Well, it was an old, like a very old couple, and it was actually like the grandmother and grandfather of the bride. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I've tried to Google around anything about this crown photo in this Antebellum movie, and I don't see anything.
No, I didn't see anything either. I'm really curious as to what that is from, what that's about. And it's just such a focal point in that scene. Like your eye is going to go straight to it because it's center shot. It's held there for a while. Um, Also, you have there's no this movie was supposed to play in theaters. It's the producers of Us and Get Out. The guys who did it, it's two directors and the same two writers who did Antebellum, and they've never done another feature length film before. Um, but if you look at the few things that they have done, one of them is a Jay Z music video called "Kill Jay Z." And Kill Jay Z was a track off of 444, which I had paired that album with The Beguiled. Was that a same day and year? I'd have to check. I don't think so, though. From the same period, maybe. But anyway, it was strange because as I was watching Antebellum, I thought of The Beguiled several times because it's another Civil War movie from a book, obviously, that's been remade. Maybe this is the third or second time that they've done it. um, where there's these. It's almost comical. It's actually this version is a Sofia Coppola version where you have a soldier who is injured and he's kept in a house by these women who are just hiding out there, staying there, and they're supposed to just be helping him, but they're all sex starved, and so it becomes kind of comical because they're all going crazy over this guy, and it's also got kind of a misery aspect because it's like wanting to keep him injured so that they can keep him for themselves, and it just gets more and more dysfunctional. I don't know if you're familiar with The Beguiled, but it's just interesting that of all the things, like that was a pairing that I put together with Jay-Z, and the film is reminding me of it. And then I look at what these directors have done, and they did specifically for a track off that album, the music video, which is also of the songs on that album, it's one of the most directly applicable to The Beguiled. If you listen lyrically to what's going on, Yeah.
Yeah, that's uh this is so this is an interesting sort of fucking thread. We're doing our sort of classic chasing threads here, but I want to ask you, all the sort of things, all the topics at hand, both the King's disease and the Civil War and masks and all this stuff. I mean, where's your head at these days? We're a month out from an election. We just had this scare with Trump. I'm just curious, what's your sort of read on reality, as it were, for a moment?
I see Trump shares tweet that says "masks represent," and I'm guessing it says slavery here. And I shared an image of him holding this plaque with a mask. Could you ask me what you're asking me again? What's my?
That's interesting. Is that new? Okay, that I assume. Hold on now, because that was no. Okay, that was back in May 28th. Just to say, when I Googled the slavery mask, May 28th, Trump says that masks represent slavery. Coronavirus represents mandated use of face masks represents a culture of silence, slavery, and social death. September 18th, 2020, Bill Barr. I see another story here. I don't know where it just went. But basically, yeah, this is the slavery. When I Googled slavery mask, that did come up right away. The sort of Trump and Barr talking around that line of that masks equal slavery. So I guess what I was trying to ask is, like, if we can pull out of some of the like abstract synchronicity for a minute and pull this into the reality, what are you seeing as far as I don't know, more whether it's a more practical reading of the moment, or how does all this sort of symbolism reflect what's happening? Basically, like, where is your head at for the next month or so? Do you think Trump had coronavirus?
It could go either way. It could go either way for me. I really don't know. I can't know. It wouldn't surprise me if he didn't, and it wouldn't surprise me if he did, or if he does.
Yeah. I mean, I say correct. That's such a shitty way of saying that, but that
I know.
I agree.
And usually I'm not like that. Usually, I'll always be open to possibilities, but I'll generally lean in one direction. And this is one instance where it's like I have no idea.
Yeah. I'm with you. That's why I was asking. Like, hey, what do you got? What's your take on this?
Right. If I was to go deeper than all of this and not just speak to the next month, but just speak to kind of the ultimate reality of what I feel is going on, my sense is that, like, what a virus is, whether it's manufactured or not, it's still like a living thing. It's something in nature. And my feeling has been even long before this fixation on the virus has been happening is that something is bound to happen with humanity in terms of us coming to recognize the gulf that exists between what we're projecting and trying to control and what the actual living organism even is. So like our a virus is a very direct way for us to look at nature. Like in other words, if a hurricane was coming, at this point in our development and our abilities, there's not much protection from that. The idea of trying to control the hurricane is pretty much out of the question.
Didn't Trump say we can shoot a nuke at it?
Right. Exactly. That's the thing. It does. We're not there. Okay.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? And actually, that's a very good point because that's kind of the epitome of what I'm trying to get at. Is it's like, yeah, we have certain things that we can do to try and avoid things, but at the expense of what? Like, where's the end to that level of control? So, like, and what kind of world do we want to live in? Like, if we apply mandates and we say, okay, this is what's best for people, but then if you say to enforce that, because you is just anything goes. Like, because I've seen plenty of footage of people being strangled by police. Not as much in America yet, but in Australia and the UK, where it's just like somebody refuses to wear a mask, and now all of a sudden some police officer goes on a total power trip and is ready to physically assault that person to get them to go with the program, you know? And I look at that and I'm like, you know what? Whatever you happen to think about masks, and distancing and all kinds of stuff, there's no way in hell you're going to get the entire population to go along with that. It's not a possibility. And so, knowing that it's not a possibility, where are the limits for enforcing it? Like, I've had it come up online where it's like somebody is saying, you know, they just need to obey the law. And I'm like, first of all, that's a mandate. It's not a law. And the most common straw man reaction to that is, oh, so you don't care if everyone dies? Or you know, what about my grandma or whatever they want to say? And it's like, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying literally like it's not a law. Do you want it to be a law? And if you wanted it to be a law, do you think that it's possible that everyone's going to go along with that? And if everyone went along with that indefinitely, like after a year, after 2 years, at which point is this is the world that we're okay to live in? Like, and is that even healthy? Like, I don't, you know, I mean, I would say
Sorry, I was mute. No. Yeah. So, I mean, there's something here. Okay. So I think that's interesting is that I have seen, not in the US, mind you, but I have seen some footage of police overstepping as far as, you know, hey, you're not wearing a mask, right? I remember seeing footage of someone in London where like they were in their front yard, what in America we would call a front yard. I think they'd refer to this as a garden.
Right.
And, but basically it's like a suburban piece of property, and there's like, you know, a square of grass in front of the person's house, and they're outside of it, their own house, and this cop comes by and is like, you're outside without a mask and you're supposed to be, you know, quarantined and social distancing. And they're like, we're on our own property. No one's around. We're outdoors. Right. Like, chill out, you know? And this woman like makes this whole big thing. They film it. And then of course they were able to prove, the cop ends up letting them go, and the footage gets out, and then the police department says, no, that cop had no right to do that. That was the cop was definitely overstepping her bounds. Yeah. But the point is, yes, this all this sort of scare tactics. What is interesting to me, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but I want to something I want to talk about is I feel like we're living in a moment where the like, you know, the Orwellian idea of like, oh, we've always been at war with Eurasia, or
I've
like,
been thinking about it a lot.
Right. So this,
Exactly.
like the flipping of the script, I feel like right now, my head is spinning
Right.
watching the script being flipped because what I see is like, and again, I don't know how to word this because you brought it up, and I'm not trying to put you into this corner, and I'm not trying to paint like sides, but I don't know how else to like really kind of like shorthand for what I'm saying.
Sure.
So I'm just gonna say it. So like, let's say you're anti-mask, right? The idea that you would be upset with police. Oh my God, look, this police man is forcing someone to wear a mask. This policeman has overstepped themselves and is oppressing people by forcing them to wear a mask.
Uh-huh.
But most of those, again, it's about at the risk of overgeneralizing, the majority of that crowd is opposed to these sort of Black Lives Matter protests.
Right.
Right? So
Sure,
like,
sure.
so
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
you have one group saying, "Hey, the police are fucking murdering us,"
Right, right.
and people are like, "Oh, fucking sit down, stop complaining." But let me tell you, this motherfucker made me wear a mask.
Sure. I'm right
Right?
there with you.
So,
Absolutely.
and I'm not saying either is right. What I'm saying is the cognitive dissonance that these are seen as two separate things, and this idea that like somehow you're wrong to be upset about one but not the other or whatever. Like there's something really wild there, right?
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. And
and
there's ideologies that go with the sides. And if you
yeah,
ask me, both of them have components that are similar to religions, where people can form a religion out of anything. And maybe I'm sensitive to it from what I was raised with. Not as much in my per se with my family as much as my school, where there's like I went to a very strict Christian school, fanatical, over the top. I don't know if you've ever seen Jesus Camp, but we went to Jesus Camp, and I'd see people speaking in tongues, putting their hands up in the air, just getting totally next level, And something that I came to realize over the years was like, and I can relate this to just about anything. I can apply this to any spiritual organization. Scientology is a good example where you have people that can have a genuine breakthrough, or you can have people have a genuine spiritual experience, and then immediately afterwards, we do the same thing ourselves, even without an organization, where thought comes in and wants to give ourselves some structure with something that was so expansive it wasn't confined, and we will attribute it to something. So in other words, somebody could be doing some work with Scientology and have a genuine breakthrough, and then afterwards they're like, okay, L. Ron Hubbard, you know what I mean? Like Jesus, whatever it happens to be, because it's a universal experience for us to have that kind of these mystical states. And so even with something like QAnon or whatever it is, like there's a mystical edge to it. And you actually included a little clip of me talking about that phenomenon in your recent series. Um,
oh yeah.
yeah, it's this thing where you have you get this hit, and then it gets attributed to whatever it gets attributed to, which is completely beside the point. But this is just what our inclination, this is our propensity. Like we are oriented to do this thing. And so, when it comes to the MAGA scene, there's something very cult-like about that, and it's easy for us to recognize that and see how that works. Where you're like, okay, we have the dictator would be the equivalent of a spiritual teacher who could be corrupt, in various ways. We've seen that a lot with cults, but I do think that even though, like I just said to somebody earlier today, they're talking about QAnon. I'm like, there's kernels of truth throughout QAnon. There's kernels of truth in fucking Pizzagate. And now that's easier to see because it's become mainstream. So like, I think I may have mentioned this to you at one point when I had shared on Facebook back in 2016, I guess, that Epstein's Island, I had seen evidence to believe that little temple there actually has a whole underground network below it and that the fucking floor lifts up. Did I mention this to you before? You there?
Sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted. I feel like we've talked about. I mean, I've heard over the years. I've heard so many theories about that. I don't know which were from you or from anyone else, but
Right. Anyway,
I'm
I had
certainly yeah.
friends just totally having this really negative reaction towards me about it, where because I was confident that in all likelihood that what I had come across was legit, and I'm like, yeah, no, he has this whole underground thing there. Well, now it's in a Netflix documentary, so they show you a layout of what it's like underneath it. And people and witnesses talking about how yeah the floor lifts up and blah blah blah. Now, if somebody watches a Netflix documentary, they're gonna be more likely to be like, oh, well, certainly they wouldn't be sharing this here if this wasn't true. Well, it fucking is true. And it's interesting to me the way that, during the Pizzagate craziness of 2015, 16, whatever, that, some of it was just so unbelievable and people would never accept it. And now components of it are accepted. Now, when Julian Assange was on, I think it was Bill Moyer or something, and he's talking about all this stuff, and Bill Moyer's like, I don't doubt the validity of a lot of the things that you're talking about, but what's up with the complete fixation on, we had this conversation before about pedophiles on the right and on the left, and the way that there's this kind of, people want to paint it that, oh, this is just the Democrats are sickos or whatever. It kind of reminds me of the way that people would talk about Jews eating children back when in propaganda, where you're like,
yeah.
It's like in this case, it's like, no, there's actually pedophiles all over the place. Rich people, it doesn't matter whether you're blue or red, like this is happening.
Well, this goes to just without getting caught in the false dichotomy. It's interesting, but I guess the kind of the point I was trying to make is like, if you're upset about police overstepping or quote unquote oppression because someone made you wear a mask, you would think you would be upset about, police actually murdering somebody.
Yeah. The hypocrisy and irony is astounding.
And I think to the same extent, what you're saying is like, I see all the time from this QAnon cult, you're right. There's a kernel of truth, but they only want to look at they want to look at this corner of the map. Hey, look, I've got evidence that this Democrat is a pedophile. This Democrat went to Epstein's Island.
Right.
I don't want to look at the fact that like Trump was there, or we don't want to look at Barr's connections to Epstein. Like, I mean, it's like the connection between Barr and Epstein is huge, right?
Right, but even beyond these big figureheads that we know well,
but
within Republicans and Democrats all over the place, there's people that got popped. It's not debatable.
Well, precisely. That's I guess what I'm saying is like, when I see, and I will regularly see, oh, we don't want to talk about like they don't want to talk about Epstein because it exposes the Democrats or the liberals or the this, and it's like, no, it exposes everybody. It exposes this whole underbelly.
Right. That's the funny part about people talking about cuties on Netflix when it comes to this is a like, it's a platform where the people are showing movies, right? And Netflix sponsors a lot of things and does a lot of things. But how do the people reconcile that Netflix also produced a documentary that exposed high-ranking Democrats' involvement with Epstein?
Right. Well, and I didn't watch Cuties. I would be really ignorant of me to say too much, but I am aware of the sort of debate, which is that the person who made it said, this is a critique. This is not like promoting pedophilia. This is a critique of our culture sexualizing children.
Right. And certain facts of life too. That have to do with puberty and coming of age, and also a reflection on society and the way that society is. And people might argue, so do you kill somebody to teach them about killing? And it's like, no, this thing is happening already in the first place. My sister put her daughter in some pageant thing, and I got to be honest, I was like, what are you doing? Like, and she's like, oh, she wanted to do it. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Kids want to do a lot of things. I mean, and I'm all for, people being open-minded or whatever. But I'm like, you basically dressed your daughter up like a miniature sex icon. I got to be honest. I think it's fucking weird,
Yeah, it's really fucking weird. But, that this goes to the idea of like, so Netflix, again, I don't know enough about the cuties to make a
Yeah,
real educated comment on it, but to say I did see the people who were defending it saying, "Hey, how come there was no criticism of like Dance Moms or something like that, which is like a reality TV show, which literally like which is not a critique in any stretch of imagination. It's really just a reality show about little girls dancing in these pageants or some shit like that. And it's like that was on the air for years, and no one complained that that was a
right. Or even
problem.
the Trump rally where he had the little girls doing their little number, that
Well,
was not too
yeah.
far off.
So now now we're getting back to what I was trying to say, which is like people are really really selective with their rage.
Right, right. Selective
Um,
rage, absolutely. And that's what I
and
used to think that virtue signaling was about, but then I found out that the term itself, where it's originally used, and this is part of the confusion that goes on the internet when people are having a really strong reaction to the idea of virtue signaling, is that the way it originally came about was to communicate around feigned rage or fake rage, where you're pretending to be really upset about something that you're not really upset about. I would say that's not what's going on. People are upset about various things, but the meaning of virtue signaling, that's not the original intended meaning. I do believe goes on where people have a certain virtuous relationship to what they're doing, just like we get hits every time we do so, because we're all complicit to some degree, being in a part of society. Every time you fill up your gas tank, you know what I mean? Like every
hmm
time you
hmm
go to take out the trash and you're looking at, oh, is this supposed to go in recycling? Oh, I don't know. I'll just put it in the trash. You know what I mean? Like, and even if you put it in the recycling, you know
You
that what
sound
is it
like
really doing?
Mark Wahlberg from I Heart Huckabees.
Totally. Yeah, you're complicit. Oh, do
Yeah.
you drive a car? He's like, and the guy drives an SUV or whatever, and they get in they're talking about suburban sprawl and all this kind of stuff. But I just, if you go to the grocery store and you brought your own bag, and that little hit that you feel when you think I'm doing something for the environment or whatever, and it's so minuscule or whatever, and you're like, well, it's my part. I do what I can. It's like people all feel on some level, oh, look what I've contributed to, and look what I'm a part of, and a lot of that gets repressed. And whenever we repress anything, it gets sublimated somewhere else. And I think that whether people think that what we're doing is the right thing or not, whatever the case, there is an inevitable degree of not just resentment, but a genuine feeling of being oppressed. And when we're being asked to speak to other people's oppression, I think that what we're seeing, the shadow that's coming through from a lot of people, is this sense that they're like, well, why should I be so concerned about these other people oppression when I feel oppressed? And I don't
Right.
see these things as mutually exclusive. And I believe that they are, in fact, relative, like I think is what you were pointing out by, the extremes of that. Hey, maybe we don't kill people unjustly in the street and then get away with it, whether somebody's being forced to put on a mask. But I've watched people being strangled on film, at least, for not wearing a mask. The
Well,
first person to get arrested in the U.S. for not wearing a mask was a black man in Kentucky who was homeless. He was almost elderly. I don't know if you saw that, but the first person to go to jail for just simply refusing to wear a mask was actually a black man in Kentucky, I believe. Um,
did all the Trump supporters point out that he, had a criminal record and therefore the cops did what they needed to do?
right. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's all that kind of stuff where you're like, I had a conversation with my cousin in Sweden earlier today, and him and everyone in Stockholm. I don't know about if you go into the 80% of Sweden's forest and those people who you talk to, what they might say. But everyone I ever spoke to in Stockholm, except for one guy who was part of what would be considered the more fascist party in Sweden, but he offered me crack cocaine. And so, what does what does that say? The entire time. I mean, I spoke to hundreds and hundreds of people at coffee shops every day about politics, and everyone seemed to share very similar views for the most part, where they were just, as far as America goes, and you're talking to an American, and people oftentimes seize the opportunity to voice their opinions on political matters, and it's like, so for my cousin, it's like he despises Donald Trump and the whole cult that goes on, all of that. But at the same time, he's got an entirely different opinion on this virus than a lot of Americans that I talk to, including my friends, And I consider it a more objective, or maybe even, dare I say, enlightened view of things, The very mature view would probably be the better way to put it. But he's not, he's the furthest thing from right-leaning that almost anybody I know. But at the same time, he feels like we're going a little overboard with our mandates and the rules that we have in place, and having people follow lines and be so intense about it all, that reaches a certain degree of dysfunction, and it's a setup for conflict, because when you try and steer people that way, they start to feel like cattle, and then they start to react. And if you don't want people rioting, this isn't the way to do it. This is not the way to keep people from acting out, because people will inevitably feel oppressed from all of that. And if they feel oppressed, then for some people, not for everybody, but some people, it's hard for them to have empathy for others who are oppressed in more extreme or just different ways,
I think I do totally understand what you're saying. I'm not completely sympathetic to that perspective, only because I think there's a huge difference between inconvenience and oppression. Like, the people being inconvenienced are unable to identify with oppression because they feel oppressed.
Right.
What you're saying is true.
If you, I don't know, I think you did for a while, and I don't know what you're doing now, but people that have to wear a mask all day, every day,
mm-hmm.
and especially during the summer when it was extremely hot and whatnot, it's that doesn't just not feel good. I mean, my friends' kids are 10 years old, and they're getting zits on their face, and rashes from wearing a mask all day, And do the kids need to be doing that? Sweden had, under the age of 29, they had a total of 10 deaths that are said to be due to coronavirus. Right. And, and they never closed down their schools, and they know that this is mostly adult to adult infection. They also, the CDC states plainly on their website that if you wear a mask improperly, which can mean a variety of things, either you're just simply touching it, because in a hospital you don't do that, you keep the mask sterile, or if you're reusing it without washing it, or even if you're washing it but it's hot out because hospitals are cold, all of these things can add to your susceptibility to infection. And the amount of sore throats going around with kids right now and all this kind of stuff, it's all real. And, it's if you're recirculating the same air with a pouch, a moist pouch in front of your face, for an extended period of time, it starts to be unhealthy. And so on one level, I can recognize the relative value of specifically an N95 mask in circumstances. At the same time, every single RCT that's ever been done by this, that's been documented by the CDC, has shown zero efficacy for face masks and viral infection, and they plainly state that the mask is not meant for protection from viruses. And so I'm just like, and that's the reason why when Fauci was first asked about this with CNN, and they're like, and the guy's like, hey, everyone's listening, what do you think? He said something very different than what he said a couple weeks later,
Sure, oh yeah.
And my feeling is when people talk about the CDC being compromised by, Trump administration and all this stuff, I think that they were compromised early on in this pandemic. And if you
they've been
they've been compromised for a while.
I think I just want to guess my perspective on that is similar to when you say about oh, did Trump actually get it? And you say, I wouldn't be surprised if, I wouldn't be surprised if. It's a situation where the information has been politicized so that so they're being pulled in both directions at once and making mandates and statements that are notably inconsistent because they're not based on practicalities of saving people per se. They're based on practicalities of what are you being asked to say, right? And I do so. Just to say, I do think it's really interesting that how little I hear of the CDC being compromised in the last few months, where we know for a fact the Trump administration went in and said we're controlling the data. You would think that would be a red flag for people. Before that, we can speculate, and I would agree with your speculation that it's politicized and that the sort of mandates are coming based on what are you being asked to say or whatnot. But those would be, while I agree with the speculation, those would be more speculative. But what we can say for a fact is that the information now is being manipulated. We know that information is being manipulated now. We can speculate that it always has been. And again, I would agree with you, but I think it's really interesting that from like I'm surprised I'm so still exposed to so much conspiracy theory world. Like particularly I'm doing like Think Quick News and people who engage with Think Quick News and the YouTube channel and stuff like that. It's like I'm always reminded like, oh right. Like a lot of the I think of myself as doing one thing, but sort of the people that are interacting with my stuff are mostly conspiracy theorists. And I'm like, I just think it's fascinating that people are saying, oh, this information is controlled in one direction.
Right.
And again, while I would agree with that, it's missing the verifiable manipulation in the other direction, right? So like that sounds like I'm taking if I hope that doesn't sound like anything other than what I'm trying very hard to say as explicitly and literally as possible, which is yes, I think that we can see how all this stuff is manipulated, and yet it's selectively. I'm just really frustrated with the weird selective and you might say that we said selective rage, but there's like I'm talking about selective blindness.
Sure. And it's this idea too that everything has to be so mutually exclusive.
Right.
Even when it's obviously not. Even though it's like this idea of Trump saying fake news and you're like, God damn, dude, the news has had fake shit forever. Obviously, does that mean that what you're saying is true? No, this does not equal that. A plus B does not equal C.
It's incredibly frustrating because I think something I was really trying to show. I went for years where I was like during Obama's administration, I was really essentially ignoring right-wing criticism to focus on criticism of Obama because I felt like that's where it was lacking. Everyone sort of going along.
Oh, sure, yeah. And I think you and I both have kind of a devil's advocate persona where it's like if somebody says one thing, even though I could just as easily be on the other side of the table saying something at least similar to what they're saying, I'm going to argue the other side of it for the benefit of perspective.
Yeah, for the benefit. Exactly. It's like, hey, this appears to be the blind spot right now. So I'm going to really focus on this because I don't see enough people fucking.
Right. I'm also very sensitive to hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And so that's why I don't like being told, oh, I'm not allowed to say something negative about Biden when I see it, when he's making me have internal face palms. You know what I mean? Like I'm.
God.
And like of all the things you could say, you're like, dude. Notice how all of this changed the topic from the taxes. And Biden says it once, just like almost under his breath, practically. where he's like, "Oh, why don't you show it?" No, motherfucker. Like, I'm like, well, I mean, I don't have the opportunity. I'm not standing there, but I'm like, dude, a sane person right now would be hitting that home, saying, "Are you going to show it? You said you're going to show it in fucking 2015. Are you going to show it? What's up with your chief of the IRS having a fucking $1 million in property on Hawaii?" I fucking said that like as soon as he was put in there, I just looked him up and saw that. And then I see what was it, a New York Times article or something where they were saying, "Oh, recent revelation, this guy has 1 million." It's not a recent revelation, dude.
Yeah.
That should have been known. All this shit, like it's, and you know, I saw an article from the New York Times that was speaking to the faults of PCR tests for COVID,
Oh
and
yeah.
and I read what they said about it, and it was almost verbatim what fucking David Icke had said in his censored interview. And now, don't get me wrong. David Icke said 70% of shit in that I could have
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
flushed down the toilet. But that was a point that was a big takeaway. And then I'm like, wow, you know, that I looked it up and I was like, holy shit, this is actually a quote from the inventor of the test saying that it shouldn't be used to gauge an epidemic. And I'm like, dude, that's pretty extreme, but this is it. This is a source that's, you know, a reliable source saying this. But when the New York Times presented that relatively recently, a few weeks ago, they're like new revelations. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is a new reality, but fucking David Icke was able to get on that. Give me a break.
Absolutely. It's crazy. And I want to give one last sort of example to see this is just this week. I mean, it's already been the case for a few weeks, but I think with this week with Trump's COVID quote unquote recovery, he says, "Hey, he's like, you know, COVID's not that big a deal. We have the best medicine."
You have
Right?
the best medicine.
Right. And it's coming. You're all going to have it. We're going to have vaccines. We're going to
He's
have
got
all this.
stock in both the main
Well,
medications that he's
sure,
taking.
sure, sure, sure. But here's the deal, though. This is what when I talk about this like Orwellian like fucking insanity is. Do you remember? I'm sure you do. Let's go back 4 years ago. Okay, Trump's running for office. Trump is seen as siding with the anti-vaxxers.
Sure.
Right?
Oh yeah, I remember
And
that. Yeah.
Trump supporters are saying, "Well, here we go. We like this guy because
Right.
he's not. He's on our side, and the Democrats are with big pharma."
Find as many clips
And
as
now,
you can of each and play them back to back,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
people did with Hillary, where you were like, look at how she flip flops.
Oh,
Look at how he
right.
fucking
No,
flip
no.
flops.
So I'm not. Yeah. So I'm not saying Trump's exclusive to flip flopping. I'm saying, but now I'm talking about the. So again, we're not talking the politician flip
We're
flopping.
talking about the people who are
Right.
following
What
the
I'm
thread and
saying
think that they're yeah.
is that now you go back a few months ago. Let's go back a few months ago, and everyone on, let's call them the left. They're not really left, but you know, it's fake liberal bullshit left. They're like, we need a vaccine, and this is what we're gonna need this, and we need science to fix this, and all this sort of stuff. And the Trump people, the sort of fake right, want to be conservative schmuck faces, are
Yeah.
like, hey, we feel like this is all a plot by Bill Gates and the pharmaceutical industries and all this sort of stuff. So
Sure.
literally, the positioning just a few months ago was liberals saying we need vaccines and we need this medication, and the right.
Let's be clear though. We're talking about neoliberals saying
Oh, I
this.
know. Well,
Most
as I said, fake.
vaccination people that I know are very liberal or very left leaning. I should at least
Yeah,
say.
that's what I was saying. Like fake. That's all these terms are so essentially almost meaningless. So
Right.
it's
They are.
but that's why I was like fake liberal something. I don't know, whatever you want to call that. It's definitely neoliberal. But just to say again, so you have 4 years ago, Trump is seen as the anti-vax, and even at the beginning of coronavirus, it's like, oh, the world is going to get forced with this Bill Gates vaccine, but Trump is going to save us because Trump says we don't need World Health Organization, right? So Trump says we pull out of the World Health Organization, and all of his people are like, "Oh my God, yay! He saved us from, Mark of the Beast, all
Right.
this sort of stuff. He saved us. We're not going to
From
succumb."
HR 6666 or
Yeah,
whatever.
we're not going to succumb to big pharma like the rest of the world because Donald Trump's saving us from that. And
Hmm.
now, within just a few months, you
Yep.
see
Big
everyone
Pharma's
on
going to
this.
save us.
The reversal is that Trump's team is saying, "Hey, we've got the best medicine, and we've got these drugs, and we've got the cure, and all this sort of stuff." And these people being like, "See, okay, Trump's rushing this vaccine to market, and we don't like it." And now I see all these neoliberal, and this sort of like mainstream. I'm talking like like friends I know from outside of like sync stuff and conspiracy.
Oh, okay.
And there's a lot of people I see on Facebook that I use as just a gauge of like where the average American is. Like it sucks to say, but there are people that I'm friends with that I'm like, you for me are literally just a litmus test of what people are swallowing right now,
Sure.
And it's like, okay, so now you're saying I'm not taking Trump's vaccine. That's crazy. It's too rushed, and he's in the pocket. He owns these pharmaceutical stocks, and he's in the pocket of big pharma. And I'm like, wait a second. So now the Democratic Party is saying we don't trust these vaccines and we don't trust big pharma, and the quasi conservatives are saying we've got the cure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit! Do you people not like hear yourselves when you talk? Like,
Right. So how Kevin Halcott used to have he had a video on Rocky Horror and Obama where he was looking at it like it's just a step to the left, another step to the right.
Yeah,
and like over time we go back and forth. We're doing it like on a weekly basis. We're doing it at least on a monthly basis, where it's like all the positions are actually changing to the other side because the contradictions and the hypocrisy is so great. It's hard to communicate this, but it's almost, I keep having this like this view of it that's almost Gnostic, where I'm just like, everything from not the New Testament necessarily, but the Gospel specifically, that like, what did Jesus talk about? Like he turned over the money changers in the church. That's the one time he got really pissed. But there's the healing the sick for like just the idea of our ability to like to heal and deal, like not being afraid of the lepers. You know what I mean? Oh, and then Jesus didn't shy away from the most decrepit. Whatever. It's like. And I'm thinking about how he called everybody hypocrites. He was like, "Don't be as the hypocrites are," and like everything that you see. This is why it's easy to entertain the idea of presidents being the Antichrist, because you watch it and it's like, don't pray on the street corners like the hypocrites do. Go, alone in your space, and it's like, and I'm watching these really like elaborate spiritual president. And, I think it was in John Bolton's book where after they took their hands off of him and left the room, and he's like, can you believe people believe that bullshit? You know what I mean? And like, it's like, what, the power of an intention? Like, even though they're evangelicals or whatever, at least the idea that people are like, being present in themselves to be receptive, I guess is supposed to be the idea. Ideally, not that that's what is actually happening, but at least like, and they're putting on a show and it's like, you know what? He's right. Can you believe that bullshit? Thoughts and prayers, well, what are you going to do about Puerto Rico? Oh, paper towels and thoughts and prayers, on an aside, it turns out that Puerto Rican leader, I'm sorry, I don't know how you say it, if it's literally their president because they're part of America, but it's that, they're basically all in for Trump. And I'm like, okay, you know what? And I think that there was something even that happened where they trying to get recalled, or people aren't stoked on them. there's some controversy there. I can't speak knowledgeably enough on it, But point is that there's so much hypocrisy and so much irony, and it calls to mind so many biblical
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
aspects. It's just so over the top. And I'm like, dude, like, wow, it's like we're what are we being steered towards in terms of the things to realize? And it seems like they're all the same things. I'm sorry, I'm sure I sound like a fanatical Christian myself, but I'm like, they're very Christian lessons. And isn't it funny
I
that the
go
people who are the
ahead.
most resistant to it are the people that call themselves Christians,
Yeah.
who
Oh, yeah.
announce and proclaim themselves Christians? And it's like, wow, you guys are like the biggest hypocrites that Jesus would have been mocking, or at least not necessarily mocking, but you know what I'm saying, like drawing attention to the twists in their reasoning process.
Yeah. I literally had this thought in the last 24 hours, which was, wouldn't it be great if there was like a book that collected all the things that Jesus said of how he felt about things, and then we could refer to that.
Right, right.
Like,
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. You're like, well, maybe if we actually could point out where this is, immigrants, everything, the whole basis of the end of John, right, where he's like, you go into another town, if you're not well received, you kick your shoes and you go on to the next town or whatever, like basically like shrug it off and continue. And it's like, dude, he's totally like advocating, like when it's like, how do you know who my followers are? They're the people that are basically like, no. When's the last time you've seen Joe versus the Volcano with Tom Hanks?
like junior high school.
Okay, in Joe versus Volcano, there's a bunch of sync things, but the whole premise of it is that he's going to this island to be sacrificed because there's a belief of the people that live on the island that if they don't do this every 100 years, the volcano on the island will explode. And there's a point where he's talking to the main chief shaman guy, and the shaman basically tells him like no one on this island wants to sacrifice themselves for the people of the island and for the island. He was like, so we need this outsider to come and do the job. Now he gets married right before he jumps in, and him and the girl who's Meg Ryan, they get shot out of the volcano and land in the water, and his suitcases pop up, and then they're on the suitcases again. But there's repeated things throughout that movie with the sun and the moon, where there's the giant moon, and he's like, I didn't know it could be so big. And so you have very much like a Chesed and Gevurah in the not necessarily the Golden Dawn sense, but in the Masonic sense, where you have the sun and the moon, the two pillars. But anyway, there's a few things that are said in there. One of them is that the guy gives a amount of time, and I think it's fuck. Is it? I have to watch it again. But he says something to the effect of 9 years or not 9 months, 11 weeks and 11 hours or 11 days. But point is he goes 911. Oh fuck, I need to watch it. I'm gonna actually look it up here, see if I can get it in my hard drive.
Okay, but he makes a 9/11 reference.
He makes a direct 9/11 reference, and there's lightning bolts through the whole thing. So you see a lightning bolt is the symbol for the factory that he works at, and then when the lightning strikes the boat and the boats before the boat sinks, it's in the exact same formation as the lightning from his job. And then what was the third? I think when the island itself actually goes down, there's another shot of that lightning, but it keeps doing lightning throughout, and the whole premise of the whole movie is straight up the Golden Bough ritual. But the thing is that it spits him out. It spits out the outsider who's challenging it, and that is, I think, the point of kind of what's happening. And that was also the point of Guava Island. It's this idea that when you're doing the sacrifice in the wrong direction, that eventually the actual natural expression that wants to take place ends up happening anyway because the ritual's done improperly. And so basically like all the magic that we've been doing and even like our whole relationship to money and everything that the way that we've been relating as a talisman, you know, and everything that we've been relating to is actually ultimately really fragile and like
Yeah. Oh
it's just
yeah.
a shell of a thing.
I
And because
mean that's where I was landing with the Trump sickness is, I totally see why it would be used as manipulation from the Trump campaign to say like we all got it and we're fine, it's no big deal, right?
right,
Um, but my first reaction to it is precisely what you just said. The idea of like, I've been watching as this ritual has been manipulated and manipulated and manipulated to do everything. Okay, it's like taking down the Confederate statues and say, okay, you're protesting police brutality, we'll take down the Confederate statues. It's like, no, that's a purely symbolic maneuver, right?
mm-hmm.
And it hasn't addressed the anger of the people, so the people are still fucking angry. Well, in the same respect, when you keep doing this golden bow ritual, Trump keeps doing it. I mean, it's like with Obama, we had like this like one moment. It was like this grand fucking display, right? And they do this whole ritual very explicitly, very grand. But with Trump, it's like this like small, repeated, constant looping of iterations of the ritual, but they're
Sure.
all just like off, and it's almost as if the the rejection of it, like doing everything in their power to throw the symbolism at it and say like, look, well, we've done it, we've solved the problem. Look, again, it's like we took the Confederate statues down, but I can't figure out why people are still mad. It's that
Right.
sort of thing, and I'm like, as I keep watching that cycle spin and spin and spin and spin, I'm like, there has to be a point at which the if there's anything to this at all from a magical perspective,
Mm-hmm.
which I think not from like a religious belief standpoint do I feel like there must be, but almost like cultural, archetypal, even like academic. Like the reason the golden bow, it's like we can we can now make Star Wars and the Matrix films based on Joseph Campbell's monomyth, right? We could say, hey, oh, right, we've got this formula we're working on. It's like, no, but the formula was discovered because it was already innate,
Thank you. Yeah,
right?
it's like geometry. It's like
Precisely, yeah,
if you look at the freaking hexagram and you're
right.
like somebody's relating to it like it's a Jewish symbol. It's like no, this is a vector metric that exists in the natural world.
Precisely. So what the Golden Bow which originally is doing is not saying, "Hey, I think this is how we should do the ritual." It's like, "Oh, did you notice how these people do this? These people do this. These people do this. Hey, this is all the same." There seems to be a basic intrinsic value or observation throughout history that this is the way this energetic cycles.
Yes, my understanding of it is that when we weren't left brain dominant, we actually had access it, through ourselves. We were more in touch with the way that nature expressed its cycles and expressed itself. And so we came up with systems that we didn't come up with it in the same way that we relate to formulating something now. Like it was like that formulation like emerged out of something that was a formulation that was inherent in the organism itself, if that makes sense. So it's like we replicate that, but the original conception, just like language itself, like the earliest alphabets, the way that those came into being was through a kind of scene. Like we literally saw what was happening in nature through ourselves, through insight. And then that's why the first bursts of creativity and evolutionary leaps like are so in unison with what we see in nature. Like we just were, because we came out of nature and we are nature and we never actually left nature. And so that's what I find fascinating about us looking at like a virus and trying to control and understand the thing, is because the very thing that we're trying to control and understand, even if it's made in a lab, is still this movement, this organic net like futile thing. Like there is like, even if you develop vaccines and you're doing the thing, it's still existing. You don't make it ever go away. Like I think there's only been what, one or two viruses in the history of viruses that we know that have actually gone away, and even those we don't necessarily know that they're completely gone. Smallpox would be one of those. So it's like this idea that we're like, okay, well, until this thing goes away, can we, like, it's like Jaws, until we kill this shark, can we go back and play on the beach?
Right.
You know, like it's just it's Castro's reaction to Jaws is like this representation of America basically living this consumer lifestyle and being like, well, when we just take care of this one thing, then everything will be okay again. And we're very susceptible to being manipulated through that. That's communism. That's, you know, so many things. But like what we saw with McCarthyism, like McCarthyism was a witch hunt. When the witch hunt wasn't just the witch hunt, like as we relate to it, it's a reoccurring phenomenon that exists when human beings get really neurotic, where we start pointing fingers, and it has to do with shadow projection. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's very clever in a way. For, you know, it takes a wise man to play the part of a fool, but for Trump to keep repeating witch hunt, because that is what we're seeing, but to make it to witch hunt to be defined just the way that he's saying, it's like, no, we've found so many people in the administration being accountable for needing to be accountable for corruption. It's just like, how many people fucking lost their jobs? Like I'm not only lost their jobs, but many of them went to jail, you know, went to prison. And so it's like, you know, it obviously wasn't too much of a witch hunt when these people are fucking criminals. And just because they're, you know, and you keep having to repeat this to certain people, that, yeah, okay, just because these people are criminals doesn't mean that there's not other criminals on all sides, or even, you know, I wish I didn't even have to keep qualifying that. Like at a certain point, you're like, how many times every time I say something about these people, I have to say something about these people to balance it out so that I don't, you know, offend the you know, whoever it is that I'm communicating with. Like it's absurd. Like I don't have to do that with you, but I know that we're recording, you know. It's like yeah.
So I just want to point out, there was something you said just at the beginning of this that I wanted to look up. I didn't realize that while we're talking, the vice presidential debate is happening.
Yes, that's tonight. Yeah,
it's literally tonight, and what I keep seeing, there's a fly on Pence's head. It's just like, how long is this video? 30
dude,
seconds.
you're tripping me out, because I wasn't thinking long ago. I mean, it was just minutes ago. I was thinking of Lord of the Flies for a minute when I brought up the volcano. And Lord of the Flies gets its name from Beelzebub.
Correct. Yes. Oh yeah. So just to say, that's where our twisted minds think the same on that, because that's where I would like when we were talking. And I was talking about Golden Bough is the sort of cycles and all this sort of stuff. I was thinking in some of these terms, and so I'm just like, holy shit, this is literally the whole time this dude's talking, there is a fucking fly. It's like all these pictures of, and here's a 30-second video I'm watching. Someone just zoomed in, and this fly is just chilling on his head.
What's one of the most famous quotes from Lord of the Flies? You remember Piggy?
Yeah.
And you know the pig head on the stick?
Mm-hmm.
And when it's the pig head on the stick is to keep away the beast.
That's right, yeah.
And one of the most famous lines in Lord of the Flies, from what I understand, is maybe there is a beast, maybe it's only us.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
I take that to tie
sorry,
into the
just
title
when you
itself.
mentioned like the biblical perspective of like foreigners and nomads and all that sort of stuff, is that oh my gosh, wow, sorry, while Set, so in the Isis Osiris mythology, Set is often depicted as having a pig head, and he is god of foreigners because he represents this sort of outside force, right? So he's literally like the god of foreigners, the pig, all this sort of stuff, and like literally while we're talking, I'm gonna send you this picture. This is insanity. I won't. I'm not even gonna tell you what. I just want to show you this picture that like it stopped me in my tracks as I'm trying to fucking talk to you.
Oh, no way. She's skewering the pig with Pence's head on it. You just came upon this meme, is that?
Yeah, I guess it's like like we were talking. I'm just like, oh, what? I'm like choking on my words because I'm like, holy shit, this is a picture. I'm literally just scrolled to a picture of a pig with Pence's head on a pig. Wow.
Being roasted.
Yeah, it
Wow.
says roast these liars. Pence can't answer a single question. Blah blah blah. So it's like like a oh yeah, whatever. He's being roasted, but it's just like it's fucking weird. It's just so.
What's funny? There's a thing going around online right now of this stack of books, and it says these are the top 10 most banned books.
I saw
right,
that.
right now. So you know that it's bullshit.
Yeah, totally.
It's
Yeah.
total bullshit. So yes, those books were debated, banned. There was a lot of controversy around them quite a while ago at different times. Right now, none of those books appear on the top 10 banned books. The top 10 banned books right now are all LGBTQ books, all of them, except for Harry Potter. Harry Potter is included. But that's because of sorcery and actual magic. So the only exception is one because of sorcery and magic as their explanation for banning it.
Correct. And yeah, sorry, yeah.
What did you send? Okay, what am I looking at? Pence knew that bug. Oh, okay, the fly on his head. Robots don't feel bugs on their heads. Okay, weird.
I just wanted you to see that. Yeah, we're talking.
Yeah, that he doesn't swat it. It's funny that he doesn't swat it. Because if I felt I usually, when a fly comes near me, I'm like, oh, get off me. Wouldn't that tickle? Oh, it's there for quite a while.
A lot of hair. Just to be fair, he's probably has like a ton of hairspray.
Right. That is fair. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. He doesn't. Is somebody going to signal to him in front of him? Hey, you got a fly right there. But yeah, what I always thought was interesting with Lord of the Flies that he's Piggy and they put the pig head there, and that idea that it's only us, and like. Or not that it is only us, but that maybe there is a beast. And it's like this idea that we're living through the book of Revelation right now.
Yeah,
and
the mark of the beast on his forehead.
Right. Oh, sure. But yeah, that it's like we're when it comes to who's doing the sacrifice, if we're willingly going along with something, then we ourselves are the ones doing the sacrifice. It's like there's the ABBA song, the songs that soldiers sing. We're saying this: soldiers sing the songs that soldiers sing that you and I don't sing. But when the bugler starts to play, we're along for the ride, so to speak. So it's like even if you can say all you want to that you're anti-war, you're anti whatever, you're anti, but in your being one with the society, you are attached to the actions. I just posted something about this today from Sri Nisargadatta, where he's talking about how karma is collective, and that's also a Jewish idea. Like this they don't have like isolated sin. Like the idea of saving your soul doesn't exist in Judaism. That is a Christian thing. In Judaism, it's like they at least in Jewish mysticisms and the even in the Bible, it's this idea that people's sin affects one another. Like we're affected, but we experience the repercussions of other people's sins Just as
Absolutely.
we experience our own repercussions for what it is that we do. And so
We're all
it's
on this. Everyone likes to say we're all in this together, but they don't mean it. But the truth is,
that's
we're all
it.
in this
Thank you.
together. And when
Exactly.
the boat fucking sinks, I'm fucking sinking right next to you.
Right. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm getting at. Because it's like this idea of like, yeah, we're in this together. I mean, Trump just tweeted it the other day. So we're all saying we're in this together, and one person's together isn't another person's together. But you know what? It ends up being that because we're really one organism, and that's the fucking scary thing staring us in the face. And it's the thing that came up for me right when this pandemic started, or at least people were focused on it, was this idea of like unity. And I was just like, wow, and my naivety possibly, but at least my first reactions to hearing about all this, I was like, well, maybe finally now people will start to see how we're literally one, and it's not just a concept.
Yeah. I also realized how naive I was. But I mean, you and I had this conversation last time we spoke, but I was like, I literally thought, I'm like, okay, here's, like, for example, here's Bernie Sanders talking about healthcare, and everyone's like, oh, I don't know. Do we need healthcare? I don't know. And it's like,
Right,
well,
right. I was
here
like,
comes
okay,
a
it's going to change
fucking
the discourse.
pandemic. Maybe now's the like I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be the moment where everyone's like, oh wow, I guess this dude was right. And
Right.
instead it was like, fuck everyone. Everyone grab your roll of toilet paper and throw everyone else off the fucking cliff where we don't care about anyone else. And it was like, instead of being the unifying moment, it was the like, close the shutters, and
Right. I
it's
mean, you
that
see what I'm
Twilight
getting
Zone.
to. It's not a conceptual unity. It's a recognition that if a virus can affect everyone equally, that it'll put us in our place for how equal we really are, or at least how there's no point where one person ends and another person begins. And that's really repulsive to some people because there's people that they hate that they don't want to be unified with. But you know what? We're all sets of eyes attached to this one great big fucking thing. And like just like in your own body, when a virus moves through it and does its purgative thing, like for me, it's weird because like I'm like, every time in my life that I've ever gotten the flu, or even not as much a cold is usually just an annoyance, but even with the cold level, I'm like, well, when I get to the other side of a cold, I feel boosted. And like I know I'm hearing what I'm hearing. I smoke a lot of cigarettes, but I hear people's argument, that they're like, well, it does a lot of damage to the body, the virus comes through, it does a lot of damage. And I get that, but I gotta say that every time I've had the flu in my life, when I've gotten to the other side of it, I feel rejuvenated. And I think to myself, Jesus Christ, maybe if I did more cleanses and I ate raw food more, and like I did 8 years vegetarian, 4 of those years were raw food, 2 of those years were vegan, but I always had a point when I was experiencing that I never wanted it to be my identity. Like I didn't like when somebody goes, I'm a vegetarian. It's like if I ever said those words, it was only to qualify that I am not eating meat, not that I'm making an identity out of being a vegetarian, because the appeal of moralness attached to it was never my rationale. And actually, I'm not. That doesn't. I don't feel good about that side of it, and I don't need that as a motivation. Like I think that there's really nothing more motivating than identity. So if you identify as something, and that's where a lot of fanaticism comes from in all arenas, whether we're talking about religious or political or whatever. Like people get that boost from the identity side of it. That's the extra thing other than the actual realizations. That I was speaking about earlier. Like somebody will have a genuine realization or whatever, and then they'll attach it to whatever symbol they're attaching it to, and then that symbol is incorporated by the organization to direct it how it will by people who are basically people get manipulated by people that know how to direct them through the paradox of them feeling liberated. It's like you feel liberated, but then you're also contributing to something that doesn't necessarily have the best intentions to it.
Well,
And
what was the Trump is my king t-shirt came from Liberty Hangout.
sure,
Right? It's like
right. Is my
uh
king is a liberty? Jesus, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
George Washington didn't want to be president. He wanted to be king. And it was a compromise for him to be president because they're like, oh, because he didn't come up with the idea of president. You know, they handed that to him, and he was like, oh, so, you know. But at the same time, he's like, well, you know, we're trying to get away from England, and we're doing we are getting away from England, and we're doing this thing, setting up the colonies and whatever. And you're like, okay, you know, I'll go with the program. But at the same time, there from the very beginning, there was a resistance to that. That there was this desire in presidents to be king. You know, you want to be like Mel Brooks, you know, hey, it's good to be king, you know, I get that, you know, but at the same time, there's a reason why we tried to move away from that. At least the people's intention, you know. Meanwhile, we've always bowed before we've basically been like a colony for England from, you know, that never really completely stopped, you know.
Yeah. 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 Uh, yeah. I would agree with that.
What did you share here? You shared a couple things. Obama's animal attraction, snakes.
So I
Oh,
gave
it's
it was a blog post I did back in 2010, and then I showed a screenshot from it. Is Obama's the two different instances? One where Obama's giving a speech with a fly on his lip,
I remember when that happened. Yeah.
and then there's another one where I think he swats a fly, like I think he kills the fly, like the fly like goes near him and he like swats it and he like kills it, and they zoom. Let's actually watch this video. I feel like you were saying, oh, you know, you sort of, you can tell when you see something. I
Hmm.
think, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, are you seeing this video
Sure, sure.
where Obama like he kills the fly and then tells him to zoom in on the fly to prove that he killed it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He killed the fly. Dude,
But
that's weird. You know what I mean? Like that's symbolically weird.
it's symbolically weird. This whole thing is symbolically fucking weird.
And it's just hanging out on his head. And Obama swatted and killed it. That's some interesting symbolism.
Yeah, I don't know. But you know that. But so like, it's literally that video says "President of the Flies."
Oh, on YouTube, the way that they labeled it, the YouTube video?
Yeah, like that video. If you're watching the video in that blog post,
Yeah.
look
It
at
says
the very first like second or two. That's
okay.
what they,
President of the Flies.
President of the Flies, June 16th, 2009. Anyway, yeah.
Why is Beelzebub Lord of the Flies?
So it's a slur. It's like, so it's Baal, right? Baal Zebub. So it's literally saying Baal, Baal, literally just means Lord.
Right. Okay.
And then it's like if you said,
Zobub is
yeah, it means of, actually like, it means like of flies or of feces. So it's literally like if you said Jesus is my Lord, and I was like, Jesus of shit. And like that's literally what Beelzebub means. It's
a pile
Baal
of shit has a
Zebub.
thousand eyes.
What's that?
Pile of shit has 1,000 eyes.
Yeah.
That's what fucking what's his name? Corey Feldman says in Stand By Me when they call him Four Eyes. He says, "Oh, well, pile of shit has 1,000 eyes," which is funny because the reason why he says that is because of all the flies on the shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what, you know, when I see the Pence thing, that was where my mind went. But just to say, like, that's the etymology of Beelzebub. Well, we pronounce it Beelzebub, but it's Baal-zebub.
Right.
It's so Lord, but Lord being Baal.
Yeah.
So
I was ignorant at one point. I thought it was similar to Eliphas Levi doing Baphomet, but for Gurdjieff. And I didn't realize that Beelzebub is actually an ancient. Where is it? Is it Canaanites? What is that?
mm,
What is that? Excuse
well,
my
they were
ignorance.
worshippers of Baal.
Right. Mm. I'm just trying to process right now. Let's look it up because what I'm curious about is I know that You remember that letter that's the double K, the mirrored K? It's a acrylic letter,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's Zay. But
I see where you're going with that.
but I want to look up Beelzebub. Is that a Zay in the center of it? Because
Yeah.
this is one of the first letters that children learning Cyrillic languages learn because it literally means beetle,
Okay.
and it's actually how
Oh,
when
it's
you
like the
spell
wings of the
spell beetle
butterfly.
because
Yeah.
the sound of the letter is like what a beetle sounds like. And so, yeah, they just have it Hebrew, which would be a Zion in the center of it, which I think we've discussed before, that like Zion, like Zionism, isn't spelled with the equivalent of what would sound like a Z in Hebrew, it's actually Zionism because it's Saudi. So Lord of the Flyers they say Lord of the Flyers or Lord of the Flies.
I think. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'm on the etymology dictionary. Old English. Yeah. Okay, I was right. Bal. So Z apostrophe B-U-B. Um, But yeah, so this is just the romanization of it. Let's see. Said to have been worshipped as having the power to drive away troublesome flies. Um, um, yeah.
Okay, it's from Semitic languages, so it's not.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I just haven't thought the thought. Yeah.
So,
So, what are the three gods
Phoenician.
in Freemasonry that they attach the three fingers to in the lion's paw handshake? That they pronounce three different gods together, and Baal is one of them.
Oh,
It's specifically a 33rd degree thing, I believe.
yeah. Oh God.
Because there's all my heart, all my mind, and all my strength, the three
Yeah,
fingers
hold
of
on,
the
hold on,
lion's
hold
paw.
on. It's L. There's L, just like literally just EL.
Like Elohim.
Uh-huh. Ball, and what is it? It's
Yeah, there's the third one.
there's
Can't
the
remember.
third one. Shit. Um, Jabulan.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So it's Yahweh,
Hmm.
Jahbul
Hmm.
or Baal.
Nah, I think I might be thinking something else because I think that there's an Egyptian one in there.
I thought that was maybe that's the on. Maybe I was thinking L. Here we go. Yeah, Jabulan. Boom. It's got its own Wikipedia page.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird
I'm
times.
amazing that I remembered that. Jesus Christ. Uh,
So this is
uh.
Royal Arch.
Yeah.
I think. Okay. What do we see the three?
I'm trying to find it. I sent you the Wikipedia page. Yahweh, Baal, and On. Uh, Thought in older times to be the name of Osiris. Yeah, okay, this is it. Now known by Egyptologists to be the Hebrew form of the ancient Egyptian name of the city of Heliopolis. Yeah, I knew On was in reference to the sun. Okay, so,
Oh well, it's like Ain. It's like Ain Soph,
yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. All Aleph Vav Nun. Um. Okay. Interesting. Oh yeah. Okay. So here on a name in Genesis in the Bible, um, priest of On, thought in older times to be a name of Osiris, but now known of Egyptianologists to be the ancient Egyptian city of Heliopolis.
when I was
What you just
really,
fucking read to me. Yeah.
yeah, when I was really into the like conspiracy slash like cover like digging into this shit in particular, like um the Masonic stuff, the like sort of secret society, the like these interesting like etymologies of these names. I lived in New York right by the Boulevard Watch Company. Like they're I don't know, their old headquarters. And do you know, like, can you picture the logo? Does that mean anything to you, Bulova? It's Bulova. It's this like watch company, and it's Bull Bul, just like Jabulon. So it's Jahbulon is Jabulon, right? And then there's this company called Bulova, Bulova, which what is that literally like the ova of Baal, right?
I'm just I'm tripping out on something. Are we looking at how do these land on the pathways of the tree? This is going to be a homework assignment for me after this conversation. Because if you were to start it with the Yud Hey, making it, because you look at Tetragrammaton, the way that it relates to the tree. I'm curious. I don't know.
Oh, if you were to take this name and put it on the tree the way you do
Right,
Tetragrammaton.
because these are all different letters, so there's no
Mm-hmm.
15 letters, and so I'd be interested to see what these pathways are.
Mm.
I don't know. It just could be an interesting thing to look at. Because it's funny because we say jaw, but there's no J, so it's Yah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it's Jah in the
You know what's dude
Rastafarian.
in fucking I can't believe that like in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade when he's standing at the edge of those letters that he has to jump across
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
and he doesn't know which ones to go and he's like oh but Jehovah is spelled with a Y, doesn't he say that?
Or an
Sean
I.
Connery.
Yeah.
And so he has to remember that because if he steps on the J he could fall to his death or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I never understood that scene because I'm like, wouldn't you just kind of like tiptoe with one foot, keep one foot on one, and see what happens with you? Do you have to put the whole of your strength? Could you maybe if you
Right.
find one that's the right, you know what I mean, like the right one? Okay, whatever. Anyway, I'm not going to nitpick that movie. There's more that I can nitpick than that. But anyway, I don't. What on is strength? Ain't shouldn't be strength. What is? I mean, I can pull out my dictionary would be the best way to do this, but and, sexual potency it says here, Wiktionary. We're looking at plural because so it's a synonym for whoa! I'm realizing something.
Yeah.
You know how strength is the arcana of Tet, connecting Chesed and Gevurah, right? I just need a yeah from you. Maybe you're unmuted.
Oh, fuck. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Yeah, you're right. I was muted. I'm sorry.
Okay, no. So where I'm going with this, you know how Crowley changed strength to lust?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Check out the etymology of and the meaning of I don't know. Would you pronounce it on? Even though because I want to say ain, uh, but I'm not looking at the what's above the vav there. So yeah, that changes the pronunciation of the aleph so that it's not ain, it's on. But I'm tripping out over like the idea that him changing that is actually relating that instead of him interpreting that pathway as the strengths of Oz as 77 and that it's being that arcana is then being equated with this definition of strength because it's literally strength. Two is sexual potency.
So if you're on Wikipedia, you can click on the on where it says on a name in Genesis. You see that?
I'm looking at
Where
I'm
it's
on
right.
Wikipedia and I'm looking at just the I well basically what happened was is I copy pasted Aleph Vav Nun final and
Mm.
I put that in a Google search and it brought me to Wiktionary. And so
Gotcha.
I'm looking at the etymology of the name.
So the Wikipedia link I sent you for Jabuan, right?
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
If you go to that and that thing where it said thought in older times to be a name of Osiris, blah blah blah, that one.
Going back to it. Um, Usages. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, just on.
It says example. Yeah, just now hover for a second.
It's bringing me to Heliopolis.
Yeah, but we'll read that. Read that out loud.
Was a major city of ancient Egypt. It was the capital of the 13th. Or Heliopolite?
You
No.
use the last sentence. Last sentence.
Of Lower Egypt and a major religious center. It is now located in Ain Shams, a northeastern suburb of Cairo.
Right. So now, apparently, I didn't realize this is that the
But that's the 13th pathway
yeah,
that I'm referring to right now
yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
this word.
So they're saying then I'm looking at the
From below, by the
Heliopolis.
way, when I say 13th. Anyway, sorry, go on.
I didn't realize. So we always say it's City of the Sun, but it was apparently also referred to as the Pillars. So in Egyptian, Heliopolis was the Pillars. In Greek, it's City of the Sun.
No fucking way, because Leo rules that arcana, which is the sun.
So, and then if you look at Ain Shams, versus it's now located in Ain Shams, the name means Eye of the Sun in Arabic.
Oh my God, I'm
referring
looking at it
to,
right now.
yeah.
Holy shit. That's crazy. Is that what's going on? So what's the gematria of this? It's weird to look at because it reminds me of Ein Sof. Um, shit. Oh, Aleph. Okay, so Aleph is 1, Vav is 6, Nun is 50. I think. Is that right? 50. That's got to be right.
What did you say?
Nun is 50. It's
Uh,
Nun 50. It's weird trying to
that
use
sounds.
Wikipedia for something like this without pulling out a book. Um,
Um, Noon is 50. Yes, Noon is.
oh,
I had to look it up.
thank you, Derp.
Yeah.
It's just out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You used
It's
to
all
be in the
good.
flow of that. So what did I just say? So the thing is, when you spell ain like that, the nun is a final, and so I had to look up what the geometrical value was of nun final, because even though nun is 50, the geometrical value of nun final is 700. And that makes this word equal 707.
Okay.
707. Um, I don't know why. Oh, here it is. So when you put into, I usually use Bill Heydrich, his website for Gematria because it's so extensive and straightforward. Um, it comes up with 707. The only other, well, no, I shouldn't say that. It's not the only. I choose the final. It doesn't actually give it a definition for some reason. It's just included in a string of letter combinations that equal 707. It's like they didn't take ain to mean anything in Hebrew. I need to look it up in the Hebrew dictionary. I should go do that. Um, but it also means her Sabbath, Shivata. Because if you are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, yeah. So if you add a hey to Shabbat, which is Sabbath, you get her Sabbath because the hey is feminine.
Got you.
That's
Okay.
actually the only word with a definition that they actually give on in this site, which makes me really want to go and look up the word in a Hebrew dictionary because maybe it's taking a liberty for it to mean strength. Like it's weird. But isn't it interesting that the word that I'm equating with the arcana of Tet, which is strength, the value of Oz, which is strength in Hebrew, is 77. The
Hmm.
gematria of this word is 707.
Yeah. 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 And whatever. So this, I don't know if you saw what I put here is that, um, according to the Reverend Canon Richard Tideman, in address to the Supreme Grand Chapter of England on November 13th, 1985, which is right around Back to the Future, November 13th, 1985, the word is a compound of three Hebrew terms, and he says on is strength, but it should be Oz is strength.
Well, you can
right?
have all sorts of
Okay.
words that have synonyms.
Sure.
Um,
Okay. Sure. Well, so
but the thing that's interesting about this one is that it also says sexual potency and
okay.
lust. So what I'm looking at right now is like you have what the pathway is, but what's the substitute that's being related to in its place? And this is where we see, beyond the obvious false gods that we can point to. This is at least like in terms of that placement of what's being, as Shakina is in exile, what is the placeholder? And that's what I feel like we're on one right now. This is a really interesting rabbit hole here. But I want to run into the other room and grab my Hebrew dictionary and bring it back.
Yeah.
So
Go right
I
ahead. Go
can
right
look this
ahead.
up while I'm talking to you. So it'll take me a minute.
Yeah.
I'm totally going to get Baruch's feedback on this one too.
I spoke to him fairly recently, by the way.
Nice.
It was really nice to talk to him. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, you probably did what I did. I just went to Google Translate, and this comes up as potency. So I see that, okay, where it's saying strength, but this is translating as potency.
There's potency, but there's also a place where it said specifically sexual potency that I came across.
Interesting. Okay.
So that it also kind of ties in with like Eyes Wide Shut,
How?
How?
How? Yeah. I'm trying to see what do you mean explicitly by that? I can do 6 degrees of 9/11.
Tell me your 6 degrees of what you think I'm saying, and I'll tell you if you're correct or not.
Gosh. Okay. Sexual potency. So you have her dream where she's like sees, right, this is the deleted scene dream of her seeing him
Oh,
being
if you actually
crucified.
have you actually read the original Dream in the original script before they changed it?
Oh, I feel like we found we've gone over this like a while ago, so it's not my recent memory, but this is
Yeah,
something. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
We
very biblical.
it's super biblical. Yeah,
He gets crucified. Bill
yes,
gets
yeah.
crucified in their vision originally.
But yeah, and it's not like not even crucified like in a modern context. I think it is like a biblical era scene. Um, so it's like even more explicit than that, if I recall. But then there's the like whole all the 9/11 correlations to Eyes Wide Shut. There's the fact that okay, so yeah, I think you and I talked about this maybe also last time. July 16th is like the day of the Trinity explosion. It's the day of the Apollo 11 moon launch. It's also the day that Eyes Wide Shut is released. And it's the day that JFK Jr. dies, right?
Right, and it's the day that we infiltrated Bohemian Grove a year later. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like there's sort of
Did you
this.
say that in the mix? Am I just repeating you?
No, no, no. I'm saying I think we discussed this on our last time we spoke.
I'm having a meltdown right now
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it.
because I'm looking at Ain. I found it in the Hebrew dictionary,
Uh-huh.
and what it says. Okay, here, let me start at the top. Oh, wait a minute. Where is the top? There's a lot of them. Okay, so the first one, Ain, one. Okay, strength, power, potency, wealth, substance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, uh, Ain. It's being presented in a. There's other. It's not just a straightforward word, but it's a way that it's often used. But it's a helpless, powerless, steps of strength. But I want to just find the ones that are just straight Ain. Okay, the next one. Ain is wickedness, evil, iniquity, injustice, vanity, trouble, distress,
Iniquity and justice for all.
idolatry.
Okay.
Okay, another Ain meaning is ball of thread.
Okay.
and it appears that that's the last one. But holy fuck to wickedness, injustice, vanity, trouble, idolatry, and then um, strength, power, potency, wealth, and substance connected together. Wealth or idolatry. Imagine that. And the sun worship and all of that. If you say
Oh yeah.
Ra in Hebrew, that's evil. Ra in Hebrew means evil.
Really? Okay. So I thought oh no, okay.
So
Just thinking
is this the power of Ra? Is that why Heliopolis?
uh so yeah, I think in if you look at it's interesting because it doesn't directly translate from Hebrew, it looks like. But if you when I was looking up, sorry, I'm gonna find it again.
Arabic.
Well, exactly. So this, if we again look at that, like Ein Shams, Aynshams, or Ainshams. Um, oh, there's a film. Interesting. Um, it's a suburb of Cairo. The name means "Eye of the Sun" in Arabic, referring to the fact that Ein Shams is built on top of the ancient city of Heliopolis, once the spiritual center of the ancient Egyptian sun worship. 10th century Jewish biblical commenter believed that Ein Shams was the location of the biblical Egyptian city of Ramses. And then there's a film, 2007 film.
From once being the capital of Egypt during the pharaonic era and a sacred location marked by the visit of Jesus and the Virgin Mary, Ain Shams has become one of Cairo's poorest and most neglected neighborhoods through the eyes of Shams' 11-year-old girl who lives in this neighborhood. The film captures the sadness and magic that envelopes everyday life in Egypt in a series of heart-rending events. The diverse characters of the film showcase the intricacies of Egypt's political system and social structure and give a glimpse into the grievances of the Middle East region and the complex relationships of its nations. Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So there's also now trending on Twitter is Pink Eye Pence, and they're talking about Pence's bloodshot eye during this. There's all these screenshots of his eye during the debate. He's got this one like totally bloodshot eye. But like
we're discussing the Eye of Ra at the moment.
yeah,
And we came there through Baphomet with the fly.
Yeah. So
Oh, not Baphomet, excuse me.
Beelzebub.
Basilbub.
Yeah. Um so yeah, but you know, I'm sure you've seen like do you remember like there's been this it's part of the sort of like adrenochrome conspiracy like we've seen like oh here's all these different politicians with like black eyes and stuff.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Um it's just really interesting that like yeah. Like that's literally what is trending right now. I just happened to look at Twitter and it's just like 250,000 tweets about pink eyes. I don't know.
Like pretty fly for a white guy. Insect
Yeah.
on Mike Pence's head suggests upstage as vice president. It's funny too that you got like a vice pres. I mean, this has happened before, but you got
Trending with flies.
you
Literally,
got the.
flies is while we're talking about fucking Lord of the Flies. Flies is trending on Twitter. Sorry,
Did you ever watch Christian Baal
Christian Bale
in Vice?
in Vice. No.
The film Vice. So he did a stellar, insanely good job of portraying Dick Cheney. And when he accepted the award for it, he thanked Satan for helping him with the part to play
Oh,
Dick Cheney.
interesting.
You
Okay.
know, and where am I going with this? Um, so you have a vice president debating the potential vice president, where we have a this happened before, but we have a vice president running for the last vice president running for office. There is really a vice fixation happening here. And have you noticed? I think I may have told you this, but the I can't help it. Like I hated it when people called Kamala Harris camel because to me it sounds super fucking racist and stupid. But Joe Camel, really?
Well,
Gimmel.
yeah, we discussed this last time, and then there's also the uh, P boy statue on his leg. The logo, right? The logo for Camel. This we literally started this last time.
Yeah, last time. Thank you.
But
Stay on
so,
it. Yeah.
just to say, you and I discussed this last time, but I actually went and did a little more research, and I will show you something else you might find interesting as a follow up. Just a little follow up to this conversation. So
Right.
you're absolutely right. You have camel with Joe. Then you have the little, and then in that logo, you have the statue of the little boy peeing, and there's the whole thing with Donald Trump's pee tape or whatever, right? So you and I talked to this idea of, you literally have all three of these people present in this logo, right? Joe, Camel, and then the P boy. Well, sorry, I'm trying to find this. There we go. Boom. There we go. What else is in that logo?
There's a man, but there's a lion. Lion circled in red. I can't see it. Hold on. Actually, I have a pack. Here, hold on a second. I got a pack in front of me. I've never seen a lion in it. Is there a lion?
I could see the lion. It's like, imagine like the lion sort of like grasp, like almost like if it was like attacking the camel.
I absolutely see that. I totally see that. Is that a thing is acknowledged by the artist? Because I know that the artist has acknowledged the peen boy.
Well, so I have tried to do some research, and it comes up on like all these sites, like Snopes, which is fucking like useless. But like Snopes says this is just a conspiracy theory. Like even the peen boy.
Which part?
Everything.
Oh no, that's not true. I've come across it before. The actual artist speaking to his own piece, and it's because this is the city that he's from, is where the statue of this boy Peen comes from.
So that's what you and I remember the same
thing.
So that's what
he's from Brussels.
Right. So what this image is pointing out, I found this image on like eastereggs.com or some shit, I don't know, something like that, was that the Belgium seal, so he's from Belgium, where this statue is from, and the seal of Belgium is also a lion. So they're saying, hey, it makes sense if he's referencing this statue, he might also reference this lion. But this is the only place I've seen the lion being. The lion was new to me.
So the Flemish lion, did you look that up?
No, I didn't go further than that.
So
I tried like a bunch of different places to see what I can find to verify. I know. I'll give you. Sorry, I'm gonna give you one more just quick piece of this puzzle. When I was trying to find this, so I looked up Kamala Harris, camel, and Jesus, where did I lose this? Sorry. So I went to I was like, oh, okay, let's look up Mars camel, and what do I get? What do I see as an autocorrect? Do you see that?
Hold on a second. Where am I? I don't want to lose you again. Okay. Okay. Okay, here. Randy Rainbow triumphantly parades as Camelot in honor of Kamala.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I wanted to look about camel, and the search terms come up with an autocorrect of, do you mean Camelot? And I'm like, what's the search term for Camelot? Because apparently this,
Camelot has camel right in it, and so apparently, so the we this is big. Okay, so the guy we this is the significance is that he comes from Brussels, right?
yeah,
Okay, and so you have the flag of Flanders, um, is what that's called, by the way, the Flemish lion image,
okay, okay.
and so it's a Flemish region in Belgium, which I guess that would be Brussels, even though it's not saying it here, it was saying it there. Am I correct?
I think the idea is saying, hey, this
Maybe I'm wrong.
statue, yeah,
Yeah.
this statue is from Belgium. This lion is from Belgium.
Where was I just looking at your thing there? Elma Ain Sholmes again. Oh shit, I'm all over the place. I think I lost it. Whatever. Oh, it was on your page, maybe. Something you showed me. Yeah, the Belgium symbol. Brussels statue, Belgium. So we'd have to look up the artist again. So Camel cigarettes artist. I bet it comes up. Add art. Clee ad? I don't know if I'm getting that wrong. Who was hired? Okay, I need to look at this. So sorry.
Well, while you're looking, I'm just going to tell the
Yeah.
audience here, or whoever's still listening to our fucking rambling shit here. So I go to Google, Kamala Harris, camel. What comes up is I see this autocorrect for Camelot. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I look it up, and there was on August 17th, which is right around. I'd have to pull up the exact date, but this is right around when she gets the VP pick. This guy whose name is Randy Rainbow, which goes back to Shekinah and all that sort of stuff with the rainbow. But this guy does this thing, Camelot, like KAM whatever, right? And he does this like Broadway parody of the Camelot song, but making it about Harris. But here's the deal: not only is Camelot a reference to like Arthur and all the sort of like Golden Bough stuff that would go to, the Broadway song, the Broadway Camelot that this is referencing was like apparently a big favorite of JFK's. And I've literally read that Jackie Onassis saying that like a lot of times if JFK couldn't sleep, he'd put on the Camelot Broadway like record and he would listen to it if he couldn't sleep. And she said that there would be nights where she'd hear him play it like fucking 50 times, which is, I always thought was fascinating of like, here's a guy who's almost like, he's so associating with this iconography and then ends up like living out the archetypes explicitly. But to say like he was already obsessed with it and then ends up living it is fascinating. But it's not just referencing Camelot with this Harris thing from last month. It's referencing the song even, which is almost more exact. Anyway, that's fascinating to me.
What I'm tripping out on right now is a few things, but one of them is that you got Camelot. What's one of the first things you think of? I know what I think of is Knights of the Round Table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Am I right? Am I right?
Or are you talking about Monty Python or?
That too. But no, Knights of the Round Table in the first place. You know more about Camelot and all of that than I probably do. But one of the things that I'm considering isn't it kind of interesting synchronistically that the pathway of Gimel is where we get the English word camel, from the letter Gimel, which when spelled out means camel, which is why if you look on in Crowley's Thoth deck, you'll see Lady Harris's put in Lady Frida Harris. Am I tripping? I
Lady
don't know.
Frida Harris, yeah.
I'm smoking weed while you're talking, by the way, so it probably wasn't the best idea.
All good, all good.
But anyway, that you have the camel that's pictured there for the pictograph of the letter, and that so that's G, and then you obviously we've discussed this in the last conversation, but for people who may not be familiar, it's pretty crucial context wise. So I kind of have to do the little walkthrough. So uh, you have the vertical pathway, the spiritual pathway that connects the upper worlds from Keter to Tiferet. That vertical pathway, meaning camel. But then you also have that's the root of our English letter G. And so if you were to look at the Masonic G and look at the square and the compass, you'd have the compass above would be belonging to Keter, Bina, and Chochmah. And then you would have the square below would be Gevurah, Tiferet, and Chesed. So the intersection of heaven and earth connected through the vertical pathway, which we relate to as though it were a diagonal pathway, which demonstrates that the whole society, in a sense, is built on a lie, that there is this direct connection between the mind of God to the mind of humanity, but we relate to it as though it were another belonging to another order, which is the order we relate to in the lower worlds. We're projecting onto our relationship to the upper worlds, which is the reason why the Catholic Church was able to justify the need for confession in the first place, which was basically the first jerk-off booth.
Yeah.
Just saying. Okay, so the Reynolds Company commissioned Fred Otto Cleesaddle, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, in 1913 to draw the original artwork. The signature seen on most Camel cigarette packs shows a single dromedary, the smallest of the three species of camel, standing on desert sand with pyramids and palm trees in the background. The back features, okay. On European and some other non-US versions, the desert motifs have been replaced by health warnings, obviously. On others, Cleesaddle included mannequin piss, a historical figure of Brussels.
Yes.
So that's the pissing boy.
Yes, that's the pissing boy. It's little pissing man is what it translates. It's Dutch for little pissing man.
Right. Okay. And so he's from Belgium. He's from Brussels. It says it pictures that, and Snopes denies it.
I'm pretty sure. Where are you reading this?
Wikipedia.
Gotcha. Gosh, this was
Wikipedia states it matter of factly, and then and then Snopes is gonna. That's classic fucking bullshitting.
Pissing statue. God, I don't know. What I would have looked up. Camel. There we go.
Boy.
Let's see. I found it. Snopes. Yeah, it says it is a legend. They classify it as a legend.
That's so funny because when you look at it, it's unmistakable.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody's like, oh, there it is. It's like the goddamn owl on the dollar bill. I experiment when I show that to people. You look up close if you get the magnifying glass, especially if you have somebody with glasses, you can kind of do it. And you're like, you don't say, hey, look at the owl. I say, what do you see right there? And wait for them to say, an owl? Because...
So this is interesting. And Snopes, wow, this is so... Snopes is a fucking bullshit site. But they're saying... They make a reference that they have a quote from the current... like the creator of Joe Camel, the more cartoonic,
more cartoonish one than we see happening in the two recent debates.
Well, no. Do you know the humanoid camel with the sunglasses?
Of course,
that's Joe Camel.
He was he was better known than Mickey Mouse at one point in the late 80s.
So. People would say his face looks like a penis, and Mike Salisbury. So Snopes is a quote with Mike Salisbury, the
Excuse me,
creator
I
of
should
Joe.
qualify that so people don't. It's excuse me. It's children knew him better than knew Mickey Mouse. But I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, isn't that gosh, what is that a scene from? Super Size Me?
Okay,
Do you remember that movie Super Size Me?
I saw it when it came out. Yeah, it was a lot
And
of
he like shows kids pictures of like these like famous, whether it's like MLK and Jesus and all these people, and then
right.
he shows like Ronald McDonald, and they're like
I got it.
Ronald McDonald, Grimace.
That was that was the American Cancer Society. Was it that Cancer Society or Health? It was. I stole a pair of lungs from. I was loaned a pair of lungs and I kept them when I did a presentation at my school on smoking. And I showed how what they put in filtered cigarettes is the same stuff they put in diapers, and what happens when you put water on it and open it up, and why. And it's also an ultra slim fast. So like those kind of diet drinks that make you feel full, and you're like, wow, how does it make me feel full? It's because the shit inside of them expands, so you have this crazy gelatin gets produced. But anyway, yeah, they told me that the that Joe Camel was better known than Mickey Mouse, which even at the time felt symbolic to hear.
So okay, so can you send me the link that you're reading from? You said it's Wikipedia, but I want to look at the actual like source. You can like see on Wikipedia, like you can track back. Okay, this statement, it might have a footnote to this source. Well,
I'm looking at
this is so
no,
poorly
I'm looking
done.
at it right now. It says on others, Cleesaddle included Mannequin Piss, a historical figure of Brussels. And so, oh, wait a minute. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Because he's not from Brussels. He's from fucking Kentucky. That's way off. So what was his rationale for including mannequin piss on the camel?
Well, that's why I want to go to the sources on that.
I'm telling you what I'm looking at right now. I mean, I
Well,
could
no,
show
but
you.
yeah,
Is this
please send me.
it's Camel Cigarette Wikipedia page.
Gotcha.
So, here you go.
I think it's really weird that Snopes talks about the original drawing, but does not mention the artist, does not anything.
Right, that's not helpful.
No.
How are you supposed to verify something when they don't give you the link that demonstrates what they're talking about? You're just supposed to accept it.
Okay, so commissioned Fred Otto Quisattle. Boom. Okay.
Yeah. Known as Fritz. It's funny because I told you I finished that that elaborate collage. I spent like fucking 50 hours. At first I spent 15 and I posted, oh, I just spent 15 hours on this, and then I fucking spent days on it afterwards. And I finished it on Crumb's 77th birthday, not knowing it. That tripped me out. But anyway, yeah, known as Fritz, Cleesaddle was a highly sought-after graphic designer living in Louisville, Kentucky. He was hired through his company Clead Art to design the packaging of the new Camel cigarettes line. Clead Art was also integral in devising designs for Four Roses Distillery, Heaven Hill Distilleries, and many other now immediately recognizable U.S. brands. While serving in the U.S. Army during World War I, Cleesaddle worked as a camouflage artist, designing buildings, vehicles, and other potential targets by making them blend with their surroundings. So the guy who fucking did the Camel cigarettes was into fucking camouflage.
Camouflage.
Blend in with things.
Yeah.
And we can apparently see a fucking lion and a little boy urinating on the fucking camel. If that's not camouflage, I mean, it isn't really camouflage, but it does blend in. It almost looks like camouflage.
Yeah, it really does.
Okay. I only know one episode of Trackdown, and it's the one where the Trump guy comes to town. It's an old Western show, kind of like Gunsmoke.
Okay.
His name's Trump, and he tells everybody that they need to build a wall, and he'll help them build a wall around their town to protect them from meteors that are going to come down and kill everybody unless if he helps them build a wall. But then he ends up giving them these little devices that aren't really a wall. They're just these little things that are supposed to help them, but it's all bullshit. And he basically takes the town, he steals from the town, and then fucking is just gonna jam at the end.
That's fascinating. Okay.
You haven't seen this?
No.
Oh my fucking god, dude. This is the thing I'm telling you about right now is the most incredible predictive thing on Donald Trump I've ever seen by far.
Gotcha.
The only other thing would be 1900, The Last President, the book from the late 1800s. That the same guy who did Barron's Adventures Underground.
Yeah, those I know about.
Same writer did The Last President, 1900, The Last President. And it's not a kid's thing. That's the weird thing. It's like the one is like a kid's fairy tale type deal. And, dude, this is so fucking good that I would happily watch this with you right now. And then after that, we could call it a thing. But I'd like to talk with you while we watch it. Can we synchronize?
Are we talking about watching the what is it called? The
Track Down.
Track Down, yeah. Sorry, I will totally do that. I just want to say, sorry, while you've been talking, I've been trying to find, just to say, the Camel cigarettes thing. So it does seem like Fred Otto Queesaddle has nothing to do with Belgium. So that at least does track out that, you know, that part is not true. That part is legend, if you will.
Does Snopes address the idea that some people think that?
No, as I'm saying, the Snopes article is garbage. It's just absolute. It doesn't even mention this artist. It doesn't mention who the artist is. It doesn't say anything about it. I do think
that's Jibber Jabber.
It just says people who think that are into like satanic conspiracies, and it's like it's literally just like you know, what do you call that? Guilt by association? No, like it's a fallacy. It was one of the fallacies. Anyway, so I can't find anything like that. However, the fact that this guy designed camouflage. I mean, it's just so like the guy pissing like jumps out of that image to me.
Yeah. It's also
the lion. The lion is a little more like abstract. The guy pissing is just like
no question.
There's really no question to me. Like that is
clear as day.
Clear as day. Yeah. But here's okay. So now I just found another. This is the last thing I'm gonna show you, and then let's see. Can you see that image?
Download.
Try it. See if that worked. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen this before.
Yeah, this is really just like okay.
I haven't seen it done with the lion though.
Yeah.
But that's where I saw the lion exactly. I saw the rest of its legs and everything like that.
Yeah, again, the lion's a little more abstract, but I think that's. I just think it's really interesting.
It on my pack seconds ago, and I couldn't miss exactly what they're showing was exactly what I saw.
Yeah. So just to say, I do think that's pretty interesting. Whether or not it's true or not, it's all pretty fascinating. I just wanted to sort of say I do think what Snopes did is super sloppy, but I think we're still in a sort of gray area about the truthfulness of this. Certainly the Brussels connection is bullshit. So I'm glad we got to do you have a way for me to find this track down?
Yeah, YouTube. I sent it to you. It's above.
Oh, in the Skype chat? Yeah. Oh, I see it. I do see it. Cool.
Trust me, this will be worth it. And so we're gonna synchronize it up. So we're gonna do a count like we did with Head. You know.
Cool. All right. Sure.
Because also I want to have the sound up because I want to be listening to it too. So we're gonna have to synchronize our sound even. So it's at 0-0 for me. Are you at 0?
I'm at 0-0. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you want to do on three?
Oh, hold on. I have to read. I just enlarged the screen. It auto played. So
Right.
hold on. Okay. Say when. All right, so it's on three. One, like 1, 2, go. Like that. On
Yeah.
three. All right. You count it.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. You get it?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Crescent moon target. So is that say Tulpa Saloon?
Yeah.
Hmm.
That disappearing act.
Yeah. Texas Rangers.
Hmm.
So, there was the show called Walker, Texas Ranger.
Doc
Walker?
Walker, Texas Ranger. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Herbert Walker Bush.
Oh, there you go.
Tulpa. So that's so funny. I keep seeing Tulpa.
Carousels are interesting.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
It's Donald. Did you catch that? So the first name in the credits, Donald McDougal.
Directed by Donald. Yeah.
McDougal. It's directed
So,
by
okay.
Donald. John Robinson. What was the name of the guy who did Proofs of a Conspiracy from 1778?
Sorry, say again.
The guy who did the book Proofs of a Conspiracy, which is its abbreviated name. The book that had the Weisenhop letters. I thought that was the same name. Whatever. Anyway, what I'm curious of now is I want to really quickly see if I can find the date that he gives.
Yeah, that's it was like November 16th,
Was it November 16th?
something like that. Let's see. I think he goes to the judge.
The judge? I thought it was Trump who said it. This day, November will be when he tells me it'll be the end of the world.
Oh,
Then you,
yeah.
his name is
You
Trump. I want to do check out those letters.
let me,
Sorry to go through this again. I know it was this scene. I know it was early in it. November 14th.
you
November
found
14th.
it?
Yeah, November 14th.
Okay, where is that? What's the time?
What's that?
What's the time in the video where he says it?
Oh, okay. 5:04. Well, that was afterwards. So right before 5.
Tonight, November 14th. Okay. So I did find, if you go back to Jabuan, it says, according to the Reverend Canon Richard Tiedemann, in address to the Supreme Grand Chapter of England on 13th November 1985, the blah, blah, blah. So
13th of November 1985. I'm looking at it in front of me.
yeah. So that's why I was like, oh shit. I was like, that date sounds like something we
No,
already
that's
talked
the
about.
next day.
Yeah. So the world doesn't end. We get to make it to Jabuan Day.
Right. Wasn't that great though?
That was great. That was really great.
And then there's like the girl at the end. I only had one problem, and that's that if it was true, da da
He,
da
he
da.
used, even though they're parasols, he describes it as a wall.
Yeah, he describes a parasol as a wall. I
No.
can't breathe. That's crazy.
And all the sort of umbrella. I don't know how much of the protests you're sort of either involved or like observed. But the umbrellas have been a big thing all year. So both in the actual protests, umbrellas were being used against tear gas.
That's right.
Then you have I don't know if you're aware of there was this idea that there was this logo of this Shanghai research facility that was people said this is where coronavirus came from. It's not actually from Wuhan province, but people said it was, and it had the same logo as this Resident Evil or some video game with
Yeah, I know what you're
zombies.
talking about. Absolutely, yeah.
And that is the Umbrella Corporation.
That's right.
So it's the logo for the Umbrella Corporation. So that was another umbrella. And then you have at the beginning of the Black Lives Matter protests, particularly the one like day 1 or 2 around George Floyd, there was this, people kept showing this guy. It was like a white man with an umbrella who was breaking out the windows of this like auto body shop.
That was the first real act of vandalism that I'd seen in relationship to that.
Correct.
Was that act. And then that guy was totally caught red-handed being a fucking cop.
Right. And everyone referred to him basically as like the guy with the umbrella.
That's right. So, they did.
So it was like the umbrella man, the umbrella corporation.
The first thing I think when I think umbrella, though, beyond something to use to protect from the rain, is the idea of umbrella projects. So like in MK Ultra, you had many what are called umbrella projects. So you have, different sub things that people were doing. Like they say that A Course in Miracles even came out of an umbrella project of MK Ultra. It was a professor at Berkeley. This woman was a close friend and fellow professor at Berkeley of the woman who channeled A Course in Miracles.
Is that Mary Baker Eddy?
No, that was Science and Health.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Which people said that she didn't really write it, and I don't feel like she did. Because if you look at her other writing, it's a whole world apart.
Yeah, no, you're right though. I was like, okay, so who's right? Okay, so not Christian Science, but A Course in Miracles. Yeah,
A Course in Miracles, but it's not necessarily, not everything's always nefarious. But anyway, all I'm saying is when I think umbrella projects as well.
Absolutely, yeah. What else? There was another one. We started this conversation with Guava Island, Rihanna's song.
She didn't have a song in Guava Island.
No. Doesn't Rihanna have like a famous song called Umbrella?
Rihanna that was her?
Yeah, that's her.
Ella.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Ella. And I always tripped out on that being for Elle.
Yeah.
For Ella, so the way that it's pronounced in the song. And right now I happen to be looking again at the examples of interpretations based on the syllables of Yah, but Yah is
coming down like the Dow Jones.
Right, but it's just it's strange because you have owner or husband is also Lord. So Baal can actually mean husband. This is why I was tripping out. I was looking at this and I was like, eyes wide shut, like the 3 parts of it. Because you have the Yud Hey. But the Yud Hey is the masculine and the feminine, the 2 letters for such. That's why, I don't know. I'm tripping out on it.
No, that's great. Yeah. No clouds in my stones, let it rain. I hydroplane in the bank, coming down with the Dow Jones. That's like this whole episode we just watched, the stones falling down in the bank.
That's the lyrics to Umbrella by Rihanna?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know if she says Little Miss Sunshine in this song.
She does?
Yeah, apparently.
Little Miss Sunshine had the whole, well, first of all, there's the kid reading Thus Spake Zarathustra, who's silent, he won't speak. And then
Horace the Younger.
And then when he gets her to like roar, to be like a lion, there's the like the beast scene. Do you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. So Alan Arkin with the little girl, and he's all teaching her to roar.
Wasn't that Crow said his name was Little Miss Sunshine?
Yeah, he said in court, just call me Little Sunshine. That's the context. That's why it's interesting. So Alan Arkin is also AA. Alan Arkin actually watched Amy do karaoke once on Maui and gave her a standing ovation. But anyway, yeah, he does the roar thing, and there's the Volkswagen where you're like, okay, yellow Volkswagen with the VVV, Vav Vav Vav. Always have it that it doesn't have that's not running, but that they're pushing it along and keep it going despite it not running. That seems very symbolic to me.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, I haven't thought about that movie in a long time, but yeah, yeah, yeah. And that also has doesn't that also have the little girls we were talking about the like pageants and stuff.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
about like
It's applicable. And at the time when that came out, oh my God, whole different world we were living in then
yeah.
in terms of people's reaction to that. Because that was outrageous. It was so over the top. And it was grandpa. And you're like, well, it's grandpa. It's kind of like they used the Archie Bunker technique, which is also the Eric Cartman technique. I don't know if you saw the new
Mm-hmm.
South Park. Did you see the new South Park?
No, did you watch? I almost. I jumped. There's like the special pandemic special.
Yeah. I had to watch it more
How
than once.
was
I
it?
had to show it to other people. But yeah, pandemic
Yeah.
special was pretty awesome. I gotta say, they're like the only
Anything?
Trey Parker and Matt Stone are the only people that I don't mind being spoken to. Like I'm a third grader, you know.
Are there any highlights you would mention from it?
Uh, no, you'd have to watch it. It's basically unless if we can find some crazy thing to do with the pangolin. You got anything about pangolins?
No, I don't think so.
What's the root of pangolin? Word meaning. Okay. What does pangolin? Definition of pangolin. Yeah. Yeah. One who rolls up, equivalent to pang, agentive prefix, goaling, roll up or around, so called from its habit of curling into a ball when threatened. I thought it was funny that the other meaning of on like that was ball of yarn, because first thing I think of besides a ball of yarn with ball of yarn is if somebody's spinning a yarn means they're lying.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Giving me a yarn. I don't know.
No, that's really interesting.
It's probably.
Um, what did you say?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably late for you.
It's not that bad. It's really
Okay,
not that bad.
good.
Um, no, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to keep like in my head. I feel like we've discussed like so many things that like overlap in my mind that I'm trying to figure out. Like every time you say something, I'm like, wait a second, where were we like 20 minutes ago? I feel like that was relevant.
Yeah, there's something
When you said,
extremely relevant. There's some huge takeaways from this conversation. For me, one is the idea of on as strength, basically being a stand-in for Oz, because Oz isn't the name of that pathway is Tet. Why Oz? Because that's strength. But this has just as much validity of being strength. So it would make sense in Crowley's kind of twisting things around that he's attributing it to this, because that might be indicative of not his own thinking necessarily, but the mystery schools that he's been privy to their understandings, or their takes. But
I
yeah,
mean,
it's
I always thought,
Wiktionary that says sexual potency. I'm saying
right.
that because he changed it to lust.
Oh,
And the idea of
totally.
the Scarlet Woman as the stand-in is just so plain.
Well, so just to say that Heliopolis, like the original Egyptian name for Heliopolis, meant the pillars.
Go. No, I'm at and Shane's maybe it's the last one before that.
Mhm.
Um, where do you see that? I see City of the Sun.
That's the Greek meaning. Um,
It's further down. Names, City of the Sun. Um, the Pillars. I see it. Its native name was, I don't know how to say that. Is that even an I? IWNW? His exact pronunciation is uncertain because ancient Egyptian recorded only consonantal values, consonants. Its traditional Egyptological transcription is Lunu, but it appears in biblical Hebrew as it's on there, but without a vav in it. Oh, it
Oh,
also has it with a vav. It has
oh,
both.
so Heliopolis becomes Baalbek. Heliopolis
This is crazy. So,
changes its name to Baalbek,
right, so
literally like the city of Baal.
real. So this is funny because when you look at the Heliopolis, you're like, that's the Greek.
Exactly.
So
So the Greek is
we
city
want to
this.
know the native name. It's literally the pillars.
That's what yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
That's and then that is on strength. You've
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
be fucking kidding me. That's unbelievable. So you
Yeah.
have two diametrically different, distinct interpretations of what strength amounts to, communicated through Oz and on. And it literally is the pillars because the pillars are literally established in strength. That's what Yakin and Boaz means. But it is Yakin and Boaz, not Yakin and On. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So uh huh.
House of Ra. The city also appears in Old Kingdom Pyramid text as the House of Ra.
Well,
Holy
that's
shit. I've never heard this. How did I never look up Heliopolis? Just Wikipedia, just basics of the name.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because it's not about Heliopolis, it's about On. Wow.
So um
So Horus is the risen sun god.
correct. And that you mentioned that this young boy who doesn't speak, that's Horus the Younger is known as the boy who doesn't speak.
Right,
Uh,
right. So Crowley's understanding of the Eon, or at least what he relayed, was he believed that, from my understanding, from my recollection, it's that now we're in the time of, or at least at his time, he's speaking to Horus the Younger. The age of Horus the Younger moves into Horus the Elder.
mm-hmm.
And that to me always seemed to be about like, okay, so this is a developmental stage where we're basically like children growing up.
Yeah, I would associate that with there's the idea, was it Young who said the age of Pisces, right, is the two fish, and that the first half is, that you have both the like the Christ and the Antichrist, and that like even though it's one age, the age of Pisces is sort of split in two, each one half for each fish.
Right. So would you say the same thing for Cancer and Gemini?
Definitely for Gemini. Cancer, I see what you mean by that with the like the iconography, but not so much with the. I don't know what the appropriate terms would be. Like the pictograph is a single crab, but the icon is that like 6'9". I see what you mean by that, but
Right. But so if you look at, okay, no, Cancer would generally be would not generally, it would be the chariot. Um, I was thinking about the crustacean that appears in the moon card, and the moon is Pisces. But so
mhm.
like I don't know if you've ever seen this, probably have, but the overlay of when you use 50/50 transparency with the moon card in Crowley's deck with the sun card.
Oh, with the
How
scarab holding the sun.
right. So you have this, yes, it becomes
Yeah.
that. So if you just overlay them straightforward, but what you get is the crustacean in the rider deck that would be in between the two pillars at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so if you look at overlaying the sun card with the moon card, there's a zodiac on the sun card. And Cancer, as the crab, is at the bottom center.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay, I totally see what you mean by that.
it lands where it would land if it was in the rider deck. And so, and then you have the two pillars also in Crowley's deck in the moon card, as I recall.
I totally can picture what you mean by that.
I need to look at it myself. I don't know. Oh, my backspace isn't working because I'm trying to backspace on Hebrew. Uh, um, yeah, totally.
There's a place called Baalbek in Indiana.
Baalbek?
So Baalbek is what Heliopolis becomes.
Yeah, enlighten me because I'm not familiar.
I don't know.
I'm having my mind blown right now with stuff that is so basic that I should already
know. I know. I feel like we went back to fucking 2007.
I just want to say the first time I ever heard about this thing with these syllables, with however you pronounce it, Baal and Yah and on, is it came from a man who incredible person who used to have a fucking shit ton of money for doing huge paintings that went like inside of like large buildings, like at the base of skyscrapers. Inside, you put them on the like up fucking stories, and his wife was she left him the day that they got married and said, "I'm going to take you for everything you got." She was Native American, beside the point, but she was, and she basically took this position, and the guy was he couldn't believe it. He was so disillusioned that he told her, "Take it all, if that's what because he asked her, he's like, "So you don't love me?" And she was like, "Nope, I want your money." And he was like, "Okay, have it all." And this guy went from that to being homeless. Now he has a home. I've seen him around town. I'll say peace to him with 2 fingers, and he'll go peace back to me and then change it to 1 finger. So he's holding up 1. He's like 2, 1. And but his father was high up in the CIA, and on his father's deathbed, this is years ago when he told me this. I was in my early 20s, and his father told him on his deathbed that that George Bush Sr. helped kill JFK, and he told him this as George Sr. was being elected president while this guy was dying. So this guy was set up in Big Sur with a room overlooking the ocean while he was on his deathbed, and his son, who was the first person to tell me about this Masonic thing, about these 3 names. He also told me that his father swore that the man who was being elected president helped kill JFK, and that's the reason why he was moved to the top of the CIA while he was, he said this while he's dying. Yeah, anyway, I don't know. I just wanted to drop that on you because I haven't thought of this in years. It's come up a couple times, but I haven't gone into it. And the only other time that I really went into it was when this guy told me that, and that was like in my 20s, So yeah, that's trippy. Anyway, I'm sorry. You were saying something, and I went down
that's
a whole.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, just so there's Heliopolis, the Egyptian Heliopolis, and then there's a place that's sometimes referred to as the Syrian Heliopolis. It was another city also called Heliopolis, but in Syria. And that city was then had its name changed to Baalbek, which is literally like Baal, the same Lord Baal, Phoenician god that we've been talking about. Yeah, but there's apparently 2 different cities. There's the Egyptian Heliopolis and Syrian Heliopolis, and Syrian Heliopolis is now Baalbek. So,
wow. So just to tie it back, the reason why. So when he told me about this, he showed me physically the lion's paw handshake for the first time, and he said, "My father taught me this handshake," and he said that these 3 names correspond to there's some relationship to the 3 fingers that are held on the pulse of each person. So when you're gripping, you wrap your other your outer
Mm-hmm.
fingers around, and you hold those three fingers there, and those fingers correspond to the Bible verse, all my heart, all my mind, and all my strength, which is referenced in The Wizard of Oz with the Tin Man needing a heart, all my heart, the Scarecrow needing a brain, all my mind, and the lion needing courage, aka strength. And so then you have the MGM lion, third roar, all that stuff. But what's fascinating here for me is I'm like tripping out on it. I'm like, okay, so you have this handshake. Is this an example of the infiltration, so to speak, whatever, of societies within societies? So you have the which really just kind of latch on to the other society. That's what we learned from what I was trying to remember before. I think it was John Robinson. I'm probably wrong now, but the Proofs of a Conspiracy book from the late 1700s that George Washington commented on in relationship to the Illuminati. So the actual Illuminati from Bavaria that went to court and all of that. I'm wondering if what we're looking at with this name is a basically a latching onto of this other intention where you say all my heart, all my mind, all my strength gets turned into whatever this is, Yah Baal on.
Oh, I totally see what you mean by that. I could see that. Okay. Yeah, like each of those things being a different component.
Mm-hmm. Which then, in turn, gets projected into things like interpreting the Kabbalistic tree.
Yeah.
So they're like, what is the strength of the kingdom, you know? And they're like, hey, that is the strength of the kingdom. Meanwhile, all the intentional people are like, no, fucking Yakin and Boaz. Different ideas of what strength amounts to. These are two different interpretations of strength. That's the literal distinction that you see in their meanings.
Yeah, one is so that lust or the like sexual sort of potency, right, versus the like almost like brute force strength of being able to dominate something, right? Trump says we have to dominate the coronavirus.
Right. It's this idea of dominating and control. And that's what we see reflected in the relationship to that pathway itself here, which is the crux of the two pillars, because it's the uppermost pathway. It's Philip Petit crossing the two towers, you know.
Well, it's so funny you just say that, because I just realized that I'm like, oh, this whole what is now being referred to as Flygate. I just sort of open my internet browser back up and I just see flies, Trump, Pence, and hashtag Flygate again about this fly, and I was like, oh, hello McFly, like
Thank
the whole
you.
right.
What's up with the wire?
Yeah. So. Yeah, the "you're fired" thing from Back to the Future 2.
Yeah. So in Sorry Cassandra, I play the clip. It's in the first quarter of the movie. In the first quarter of the movie, I also run an experiment where I take all three movies and I did a thing. It's hard to explain, but the lightning lines up. So the lightning strike. So I saw, because you know how the scene repeats, and so I see how it lands when you unify the two scenes and what transpires, and it's kind of interesting. And then there's another thing that happens with Back to the Future 3 and Back to the Future 1, where the blast lines up with the when it's actually hard. It's crazy because it's the timing is actually the result from doing aligning one. They're both their endings together. So it's where in Back to the Future 3, when Marty sneaks up at the beginning behind Doc. And Doc turns around and goes, "Wah!" and he freaks out because he thinks that he's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And he falls backwards. That aligns to when Michael J. Fox blasts the guitar amp out and he floats backwards. So those two blasts backwards actually align if you align them at their endings, the two films. And then the other two with Back to the Future 2 and is it 3? I forget. Yeah, 3 with I'm all over the place. Anyway, it's hard to explain. The point of where I was going with that was I did that experiment, and then I basically just played that "You're Fired" scene with like an angel passing through my room, a segment of the song with that segment in the movie, because it's the now and then become entwined, playing games all in my mind when the two females meet each other. So like the two, I'm so stoned. The two, the same girl, what's her name, Marty's girlfriend, when
Oh, Jennifer meets Jennifer.
yeah, when Jennifer meets Jennifer and they pass out. So, but in Sorry Cassandra, I do the I didn't actually play Donald Trump in that scene saying "you're fired," but every fucking time I watched it, that's what I'm relating it to in the context of the larger film and where it goes. It just seems like the most obvious thing. If you watch that now, you just how could you miss that? It's ridiculous. Somebody pointed out, I think it was Brian Taylor, maybe the Mexican beer, that it says that when he's being told he's fired at the bottom of the screen that he's looking at, or
Yes.
that he dislikes Mexican beer. Is that what it says?
Yeah, or dislikes Mexican food.
Dislikes Mexican beer. And what's the first beer you think of when you think of Mexican beer besides Dos Equis?
Right.
Corona.
Corona, yeah, exactly, of course.
Right. Did you catch? I just want to jump around for a second. Did you catch in Guava Island that Red's mansion has that stone lion in front?
No.
You missed the big stone lion.
I guess I did. I guess I
Yeah. So
did.
when he rides up, it's large in the screen, but it's only there for a minute. So, but yeah, no, it's there. But I don't know.
No, I mean, it's just so wait.
It's crazy that they're like on a name in Genesis in the Bible, thought in older times to be the name of Osiris, but now known by Egyptologists to be the Hebrew form of the ancient Egyptian name of the city Heliopolis. But it says citation needed. There is no place citing that. Are we looking at bullshit?
I've looked at a few different sources already. I'm just blown away. Sorry, I like
I'm blown away too.
all I'm seeing on social media is like I literally it's just about this fly. It's just like
There's no discussion about anything that they're talking about.
well, I'm like no.
Wow.
Yeah, it's literally holy shit. It's just like I'm just saying fly, fly. Um, okay, here's Penn says never let a woman finish. Fly. Um, here's something. Bill Klaus says Joe is against marijuana. What the fuck? Nothing is more systematically racist. I guess they said they won't criminalize marijuana, which we already knew that. Here's another fly. It says a picture of Ginsburg, and it says I sent the fly. Okay, here's someone saying the VP debate ended with "We will decriminalize marijuana." Okay, so I don't know who said that.
That feels like it's like, dude, it's like such children.
Zach
The,
Bauer,
the
Lord of the
majority of people want
Flies,
something and just fucking let them have it. Jesus Christ, dude. We're like,
fly, fly,
we, I don't know. Fly, fly,
fly.
fly. That is far out.
It's just all fly, and like the fact that we've been fucking talking about Lord of the Flies to start, I don't know. It's just
Right,
so fucking weird.
right.
Um,
Beelzebub. Maybe there is a beast. Maybe it's just us.
yeah, yeah. Um, it's just so fucking weird, though. It's just so fucking weird. The time, like I said, all this sort of shit these days is like the symbolism is like just going crazy. But I didn't, as far as whatever, I'm curious who said what about marijuana legalization. I'm be interested to look it up. Um, let's see, Harris, Pence. Okay. Harris says that they want to decriminalize marijuana. Because I know I've seen Biden say he did not want to, but now Harris is saying she does want to. Interesting.
I bet Biden's like, hey, you didn't talk this over with me. I'm just kidding.
Right.
Probably not. No, you'll do what you need to do to cater to whatever you're catering to. Didn't she say that she smoked weed before? Wasn't that one of her things? Yeah. At one point?
She's also locked up a bunch of people for it. So.
That's right. Duh.
Yeah, she said she smoked it, and she's also fucking arrested people for it. And I think when there was a thing, I feel like like a year ago, there was a thing where she was asked that how can you joke about smoking marijuana when you prosecuted for marijuana, and she like laughed it off and was like, it was my job. What are you talking about? It's funny. And it's like, no, it's not funny, bitch.
Right.
Yeah, I think she's a total fucking cunt, but
yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's funny to watch like Hunter S. Thompson running for sheriff, being like, most people want it. You know, you're making people into criminals when it's like most people, and it's like, you know, that's ridiculous. So, but my point is that was a long time ago. It was a long ass time ago. Give me a break. Why are we still? I feel like it's such a like the public being treated like such little incapable children. You know, when you treat somebody like that, they act like that.
Okay, so sorry, I'm just reading. So apparently Pence did point out, quote, when you were district attorney in San Francisco, African Americans were 19 times more likely to be prosecuted for minor drug offenses than whites and Hispanics. When you were Attorney General of California, increased reports disproportionate incarceration of blacks in California. Yeah, okay, yeah. So, cool. At least he pointed that out. Yeah, okay, it was Gabbard. It was okay. That was a thing where, okay, Biden differs with Harris in that he opposes legalizing marijuana but backs decriminalizing possession. Yeah. Anyway, to me, it's a no-brainer. As you said, it makes no sense. Like, I'm like with all this stuff, like, you know, we could talk about like politics. That is the one that blows my mind the most, in the sense that like I can't believe it's 2020, and you know the Democratic candidate is saying no, I don't believe in legalizing marijuana. Like I thought that was such an obvious, like just a gimme. Like
right.
With the amount of states that have legalized it, and that it's become so
in your face. No, fuck you.
Like it's become so normalized in within our life, within like, you know, like a relatively short amount of time. I am astounded that that's not like just an obvious. Like, I'll be honest, when the primaries ended and it was down to just, okay, it's going to be Trump versus Biden, and Biden said he didn't support marijuana legalization, and the DNC said that wouldn't be part of their platform when they voted on that and said, no, we're not going to support marijuana legalization.
Yeah.
My first thought was, oh, they're trying to lose.
Right.
That was like legitimately my first thought was like, oh, this is the Democratic Party trying
not about winning anymore. Yeah,
as hard as they can to lose.
Yeah, word. So. Yeah, we're in this together.
Yeah.
That can be flipped, can it? That's just like we're stronger together. That was Hillary's thing. Stronger together. Now Trump,
you put up the wall and you can't leave. We're all in this prison together.
And all the goddamn commercials that came out that all had the same soundtrack when the pandemic first started, and how quickly I'm like, my God, these people were on it to produce these commercials so fucking timely. Did you catch those? I don't watch television, but I got to see them all in a row. I posted. I don't know if you saw that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
There was like a fucking shit ton of commercials from all kinds of different companies, car commercials all over the place. that had the same music and they had the same slogans, and there were all these slogans. It was total classic PR, and it was like, the things like stronger inside or strong. We're together but apart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Together apart, or
Together apart and all that kind of stuff. But it was like they are all such a formula. Like it was a repeated cookie cutter formula, and there was a bunch of them that happened all at once, and it happened so timely and so quickly that I was astounded by it. I was like, wow, you guys are just on this. It's like, how long does it take to produce a fucking commercial? Jesus Christ.
Sure, yeah. And especially if you're not allowed to like go into a studio.
Right? What the hell? You guys are coming with it. And so, yeah, no, it's a strange thing. The play side of it. It feels like the birth of tragedy or something.
Well, that reminds me. That was sort of that beginning of Guava Island made me think of that sort of Apollo Dionysus.
Oh, sure.
It's just like those that sort of polarized like love and war, these forces that they describe. I don't know. And it's like, it's the party versus the control. Are we going to have a festival, or are we going to get to dance, or are we going to have to work,
Right. And the power corrupts. And people who are born into relative power generally don't have the depth needed to understand what's needed for the community to thrive. If somebody hasn't struggled to pay rent, it's doubtful they're going to understand the realities that people face trying to pay rent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm just speaking to Versailles, yeah. You compare us to what France actually was at that time in terms of wealth distribution, they weren't anywhere near where we're at in terms of disparaging struggle. It's heavy.
Yeah, it's
And
really
what
really
it
fun.
took for them to cut off the heads of their rulers is less than what we're dealing with now. They put up with less. Those French, they got a different word for everything.
Well, do you want to call this here? I'm tapping out, I think.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you.